of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We had a notice of executive session after the meeting of July 7th and preceding the Board of Commissioners meeting on July 13th, where personnel matters, litigation matters, and real estate matters were discussed. Elaine, we have the swearing in of a police officer.
Superintendent Calarula, would you like to invite our new officer to come and get sworn in?
Yes, Commissioner. I would ask the audience to please rise for the presentation of colors. Commissioners, I'd like to introduce a big ally of the Radnor Police and Radnor Township as a whole is Judge Ann Osborne. The Honorable Osborne always comes here and helps us during these festivities. I'd like to introduce our applicant. His name is Dylan Royce. He's 24 years old, graduate of Ursinus College, class of 2013. Excellent candidate, excellent addition to the Radnor Township Police Department. He went through a very rigorous hiring process, and we're proud to have him join the family in Radnor Township. All his brother and sister officers are in the back to cheer him on as well. I am now going to turn the microphone over to the Honorable Osborne and have Dylan's family come here to accompany him when he's getting sworn in. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, it's my honor and my pleasure to be present to administer the oath of office to Radnor Township's newest police officer, who will be Officer Dylan Royce. So I'll ask that Dylan's father hold the Bible, and the application of the badge will be done by Dylan's mother. So, candidate Royce, please repeat after me. I, Dylan Royce, do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States of America,
I am a citizen of the United States of America,
that I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
that I will faithfully perform
that I will faithfully perform
all the duties of a police officer
all the duties of a police officer
of Radnor Township,
of Radnor Township,
and obey all orders from my superior officers
and obey all orders from my superior officers
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, Officer Royce.
Congratulations. Welcome.
We are now going to retire the colors, and after they leave the room, I will ask everyone to please be seated. So can we please retire the colors at this time? Thank you.
Sit down and I won't pop you on the way down.
All right.
Nope.
We're going to go into the substance of the agenda now, and the next item, or the first item, is the consolidation of multiple lots on Villanova's campus. This is proposed resolution 2015-73, and it's a combination of preliminary approval by the Board of Commissioners and final approval, or rejection for that matter. So I think we have the applicant here, and who is to speak first?
Yes, we're present. This is the lot consolidation. Nicholas Cornelia representing the applicant, Villanova University, on this matter, and we have no comments to the proposed resolution as to the lot consolidation.
I'd like to note that I will not be voting or discussing this item or the next item on the agenda concerning Villanova because I have a conflict of interest.
Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I move we approve Resolution 2015-73.
Second.
Commissioner comment? Public comment?
I just had a question, may have been resolved. In the Gannett Fleming letter, there's a reference to two things that needed to be clarified. The first is that the applicant had provided a deed for the lot containing Garrity Hall that was missing from the original submission. The plan must be revised to indicate the deed book and page number of the correct deed. Has that been done?
I believe it has.
Okay. And the second, and that the consolidation plan was signed by a professional land surveyor. Has that been done?
I assume it, Alex?
Yes, it was, and we have to submit the final record copies after this approval, and they'll be signed as well.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 6-1? 5-1. 5-1. I'm sorry, I abstained.
Next item is, again, Villanova. This is proposed resolution 2015-74, a final plan for the Villanova University housing project. I should note that it includes more than housing or dormitories. It includes performing arts center proposed, retail shops proposed, a parking garage, and many other things, stormwater system, et cetera. So, Mr. Cornelia?
Yes. As to the proposed resolution, I do have several comments. First, as to items 1, 2, and 3, we believe that the comments and the review letters from the consultants have been slightly modified in accordance with our responses, Villanova's responses to those comments, and I just would ask that Villanova's responses be incorporated into the resolution so there's no doubt as to how Villanova is going to resolve the consultants' letters and consultants' conditions. And so that is why I had requested that our responses be included, because there are some instances where the consultant's condition is addressed by the response and the consultant agrees. My understanding is all the consultants agree with the responses as to those conditions. And that, just in case I want to have perfect clarity, as we know that we don't want anything here to be subjective. We want everything to be objective. We just had a huge discussion from a resolution of 25 years ago because there was a feeling that it was not clear and was subjective. So my concern with the resolution itself is just I want everything to be as objective and clear as possible. And that's why we're requesting not only that, but
Your request went through review. I know each member of this board got them, and they also went to the solicitor. And I think the solicitor, I know the solicitor has responded with a commentary in the form of an email today.
Yeah, the comments that Mr. Cornelia wants to incorporate into the resolution are comments that were provided to the professionals, to Roger, to Amy, and to Steve Gabriel earlier in the week. And it's typical after an approval like this, when you incorporate your consultant's letters, that then after the fact, unless there's something Villanova wants to object to tonight, which they they don't in any of those review letters. It's just a manner in which they will comply going forward. We have their comments on the review letters. All the consultants are in agreement with the manner in which Villanova intends to comply with those issues. So I don't really see any reason to muddy up this resolution and incorporate Villanova's comments into the review.
So you're
letter.
saying if 10 years from now or 25 years from now, if a dispute arises as to anything that the university and its council have commented on, the record will show by means of the letters from our consultants and the Villanova commentary on that the record is complete and it will show the true facts? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we had back and forth earlier this week, Nick, as you know, and the consultants, we had a conference call earlier in the week, and they've all looked at Villanova's comments as to how they intend to comply. Most of the comments are, we will comply. So there's a record there if there's an issue down the road. I just didn't see any reason to have Villanova wordsmith the entire resolution that we sent around. So I think if you incorporate the 3 review letters, that's sufficient at this point. And then we have the backup that went back and forth between the consultants earlier this week. There's no disagreement on Villanova's proposal to comply.
John, what I heard, though, was not that Nick wanted the resolutions changed. I didn't hear that he wanted to wordsmith it. I heard that he wanted to attach the letters to the resolution to create the record. Did I understand you
exactly.
incorrectly?
I don't want 10 years from now someone to come forward and said Villanova didn't respond directly to a condition when in fact we did respond to it based on our responses, even though we weren't upholding fully what the condition stated. It's been accepted and was accepted as to what our response to that condition would be.
So the question I think for us is, would Nick's suggestion prevent us from having a scenario like we had, a month ago, where we were
I don't think it's needed either. I kind of agree with the solicitor. On the other hand, if you look at this as a contract, it's good drafting, John, to do this, to follow the approach the university is asking, because he's bringing everything together in one place and asking that the comments be attached as exhibits A, B, C, and D. So I think this is an issue that we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on. If no other commissioner has any objection,
I would say that it's inappropriate to attach anything to the resolution. The resolution that we approve will be the language that we authorize and specify the conclusions and directive of the Board of Commissioners. It would only serve to muddy the water, cause confusion, and be less precise to attach statements from the applicants. Completely inappropriate.
John,
Jim,
there
is
any
it your
problem?
opinion that it's, is it your opinion that it's appropriate or inappropriate?
He said it's appropriate.
agreeing with what they're
Yeah.
asking. In the interest of good drafting, that's all.
Well, we're not changing any words, John. Can we just
You
accept?
can, basically what you would be adding to the resolution is the Gilmore letter with the Villanova comments highlighted in there. And most of them say we will comply.
Yeah.
The Ritu letter with the same, and the Gannett Fleming letter.
So we're not working-
If they comply, why would you need to do that?
Well, there's some clarification, Rich, on some of the issues. I mean, I just don't.
Well, your recommendation was that
That
you
you
see
not.
no reason to do this.
Because I think it's documented elsewhere.
And certainly it is. I've never heard of an instance where the applicant would get to include their write-up in the authorizing final resolution.
Just
John, which letter did you just cite? The Gilmore letter?
Gilmore
Ritu?
letter. There's a Gilmore letter it's set forth in the resolution. There's a
Okay,
Gil-
so it's by reference in the resolution. I think that's adequate. I don't think you want to, if it's already referred to in the resolution, I don't see a point.
My
of-
sense is to accept John Rice's recommendation. I mean, we've never done this before, John, correct, so it'll be up to the parties that believe that they're I mean, I see it'll be up to Villanova to just make sure they maintain a record of this.
We have a record. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got, all the consultants have looked at it. We've looked at their comments on
Okay.
all the review letters, and there's no issues.
So you believe we have a record? If we need to look at the record, we'll look at the record.
Correct.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Over here. The three letters that Nick's referring to were included in your packet that has Villanova's comments below where myself and Amy and Steve had made comments. So you already have that memorialized in your packet tonight.
Very good.
All right, Nick, next item.
Sure. Going down to number 7, and that's the event circulation plan and evacuation plan. That's already addressed in the conditional use under different language, however. And the event circulation plan and evacuation plan, it was first submitted in December of 2014, and we did get comments from the consultants, and we incorporated those comments in the event circulation plan. Both, we received comments, I believe, in December, and then again, we revised it in March and even received some comments after that, and we revised it again in May to include all the consultants' comments. And my concern here is really the terminology saying that to the township's satisfaction. As I've mentioned, we've complied with the conditional use in that we have submitted the plans. The conditional use, which will be an ongoing requirement, also requires us to in addition to developing the plan, to also be responsible for constructing, installing the signs, structures, directional aids, and everything else. And that's a continuing obligation, and we understand that, and we certainly intend to still do that. As I said, it's already addressed, and my concern is when, again, the subjective standard of township satisfaction, unfortunately, it makes it sound like best efforts again, and I don't want to go there, And so I'm just trying to be as objective as possible.
So
on
what's
this
the
wording.
alternative language that you're suggesting?
We can either put in the language from the conditional use, but it's already in there, and I believe the resolution already says it incorporates all the comments from the conditional use requirements already. And yes, number 4 says shall comply with the terms of the conditional use order, which, as I said, is that we submit the plan, that we get comments from township consultants, which we have done, we revise the plan, and that we're a continuing obligation to perform what's required under that plan. I just would request that it be struck.
Nick, at
Because
this
it's already
point,
provided.
you've satisfied that requirement in your belief?
Correct.
And have you gotten an acknowledgement from staff, an email, a letter, something acknowledging that the event circulation plan that you've submitted is adequate? Because it sounds like a trust. It sounds like a trust issue.
I know. I
No,
don't believe
no.
we have.
We have not.
All right,
No.
there you go.
That's
John,
why we put this in the resolution to remind Villanova, because there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
That
So
this is something that needs to be done early and upfront. And it is in the conditional use decision, but it was something we talked about with the consultants. I think the police department has reviewed a submission, but there's questions and there's some details. And I understand Mr. Cornelius' concern that the township might be unreasonable going forward, but it's an event and circulation plan. It's either detailed or it's not. I think the police department and the township's traffic engineer need some more input, and there's some more detail.
But
John, why not make it as per the requirements of the conditional use and the township code? I mean, we're not specifying the standard that they have to satisfy in item 7. And to me, we need to specify the standard. If we need more specificity, we should specify the standard.
Well,
standard is
Standard is the
township
township's
satisfaction.
Consultants are basically
Yeah.
satisfied with it, and I know that that's not, a specific set of criteria, but I don't know that we've ever had these types of plans submitted with a land development plan before, and it's going to involve the police department and the engineers taking a look at this, and it may change over time, because they're going to be in a construction zone.
But John, how about if they're never satisfied?
I don't think the consultants are unreasonable.
In the world of contract negotiation, you never let your client agree to this. It may be reasonable satisfaction, but because, as Don says, it's adding another hurdle to jump over. You have to submit an evacuation plan, event circulation plan and an evacuation plan. Those are two discrete requirements. And then to say that those have to meet some other criterion, namely somebody's satisfaction is,
But
it's arbitrary.
Yeah, but
the plan could be,
I-
if there's an emergency, everybody just run.
But we don't have that. We've submitted a plan that
look,
specifies what happens in
Nick,
an emergency.
I think this is a matter of trust, okay? You're going to need to trust us as much as we need to trust you, okay? And the institution. And I like this to stay in there. I trust our staff not to be overbearing. I trust our staff to work with your staff and to make sure that the plans that are submitted are adequate and good. We're not looking for a way to wedge this later. This is just a requirement that's been in there. You've agreed to it in the past. I think it needs to stay in there.
Would the word reasonable help?
I think reasonable to help, and also I think that we need townships consultants, because this isn't something that's coming back to the Board of Commissioners. This is something that the consultants would be determining.
Board commissioners have a chance to
Just
review.
consult.
I would totally object
It's
if
not
this
just
has to go back
consult.
to the Board of
It's not just
Commissioners.
consult. The word township here is the entity, and that entity includes staff, which is staff traffic, our staff employees, and also our consultants. So it's really a combination.
But
Oh, I have no
John,
problem with-
John, they could come back and say, we want a right-hand turn lane.
No, that's not what it's asking. That's not what it states.
They could,
Well,
we
it
just
could,
come back and
that's-
they could come back and say, we
No.
want a right-hand turn lane.
That's not what this is granting. This is simply asking that we have a circulation plan. It's not saying that you create a circulation method. It's saying we want to know what the plan is.
And we have that.
Yeah,
That's
so
been
then we
submitted
should be
3
okay.
times.
I think both parties are okay with it.
I think there's a concern by some of the people who support this, that this will be used to prevent the plan that we support. I don't know if others, is that where Bill's going? That's where I believe Jim's going. And that we see this as this can be one more way that we're going to stop this plan. And 4 of us think this plan is a good idea. So, Jim, I have to say I'm going to defer to, or I'd like to hear your sense on an accommodation on this matter.
Get right to what I hope is a acceptable solution. I'd use put the word reasonable in there, and I'd also change townships, the word townships, to Gannett Fleming or Gilmore, rather. Gilmore is more important.
Say I'm going to object to that.
The
So,
township,
sorry.
okay, the township consultants.
No, I'm going to stick with John Fisher's language. It's the entity of the township that will make the decision. And we can put language in that protects the interest the concern that I just identified. But
I
I'm
would
not-
support reasonable. Just adding the
Yes.
word reasonable.
I'm
The
not,
township-
I'm not going to be supportive of taking a decision by the entity of the township and giving it to someone else. So
Can
the word
I
reasonable.
Can I add?
Don't we do that all the time when we have, when we approve a plan, we say X, Y, and Z are subject to approval by our township engineer. We do that all the time.
Right, but we have specific criteria when we do that. Now we don't have criteria, which is the dilemma, as I see it.
Can I suggest some
Yes,
language to
yes.
just add to the end of that? Which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld.
It's fine. It's not necessary in this resolution, but
That is
Can I have a
standard
motion?
contractual language. One other thing, though, we're not really certain when it says prior to the issuance of any building permits. I think, as you're aware, we're intending to start, for example, the West Lancaster parking lot pretty quickly. We're intending to commence with the Pike Garage as well as the bridge relatively quickly. So when it says prior to the issuance of any building permits, we're going to be applying for building permits, at least for West Lancaster, probably the West Lancaster parking lot, in a relatively short period of time. And we don't want this to, I know the concern last week was extending this project and having a long construction period. We're trying to shorten that construction period for everyone involved, both Villanova and the neighbors, which has been a big concern. So tying it to the issuance of any building permits is also a concern. I don't have any objection to the language.
We have a right to
Not
see
being
the,
reasonably
hold
held.
on, we have a right to see the construction plans, so we can gauge those against the evacuation plans. So are you saying you want to be able to submit request permit submit building plans and not have this other plan in
Our
hand?
bigger concern is what building plans are we talking about? As I said, we're going to be submitting
I
for
think it's
West
the whole
Lancaster.
thing. I think
Yeah,
it's
and
everything
then-
except
and
maybe the
then-
Performing Arts Center.
You know, this has been before the township for 6 months, this evacuation plan.
But
and
Nick,
this-
why is it
and this other plan,
unreasonable?
And
Then
no
why-
one has
why-
told us.
Why is it unreasonable to ask for an evacuation plan? We have a whole new
We have
parking
it,
lot.
Rich, you have the evacuation plan.
Before the building permit.
Wait, Nick, I'm not trying to be unreasonable here. I just think I'm looking for due diligence on your part. If you're going to submit a plan to construct buildings, then you should also already have this evacuation plan worked out. Otherwise, you could end up in a place where you can't actually have an effective evacuation plan. So, which is it?
Yeah,
I mean,
but John, we've submitted this plan. We've taken the comments from the consultants. We've incorporated it in the plan. And according to this, we still don't have a resolution on it. I thought maybe it was resolved until John said it wasn't, but.
so at this point, let's hear from staff.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's not been resolved.
Does staff have a position on the quality and this? Are they satisfied with the current evacuation plan and the current event circulation plan?
Event circulation.
I've looked at my notes while you were just discussing it, and I believe that the evacuation plan has been satisfied. We're still working on some details on the special event circulation plan, and I'm also recognizing that that will be an ongoing effort that would probably continue beyond the scope of these projects, because it will be a work in progress as.
So as long as Villanova continues in good faith to work with you, I will make a matter of record tonight that the staff is satisfied at this time.
Right, and I'm happy to add in there the language, such approval shall not be unreasonably withheld, because we won't unreasonably withhold it.
Well, John, if this is a work in progress, how, you can't make a condition on getting building permits then, right?
Well, it sounds like.
Of course you can.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, there's no way to guarantee you ever get these things. So that was the
Just saying,
goal.
even if the project's completed, they're still going to be working on this.
Right, they may change the event circulation plan, Bill, as they construct out there, but, you know, wherever it is right now, we need to get a final draft of it as is right now with what's being proposed. And then if it changes down the road, it changes down the road. But it sounds like the evacuation plan is okay. The event circulation plan needs some more work.
And we should have that in connection with the construction of a new parking lot and
Before the building
before the
permits.
building permit. So when you build the parking lot, you should have this.
But from what I just heard, it's going to be a continuing progression
could
of
be.
this plan.
It could be.
So then we're getting building permits held up forever. We'll never satisfy. If it's a continuing obligation.
That is not, Nick, excuse me. That is not what I just said. What I said was, it appears as a matter of public record, staff has just indicated in a public meeting and under public record that they are satisfied at this time with the condition of the evacuation plan. However, it sounds like there may be a little more detail needed on the event circulation plan. So does staff want to give us a little more clarity on what we're looking for there, just so we can give them some?
Sure. It's my understanding that there is still some language that they're working out with the person that's going to come out and do the special event circulation. Mary Lou, I think that you and I have talked about this. Am I correct in that? And when that becomes available, then, because we had some concerns about the length of the messages, we had some recommendations on how they might want to, instead of identifying some of the parking lots by name, it might be a simpler thing if you go by color. So there are still some discussions on how to lay it out, because there are no black and white ways of doing this. It's different for every site. So
we're acknowledging that they have a plan submitted. However, it's in a state of evolution.
All right,
But at this
Yes.
point, is staff satisfied that a plan has been submitted?
yes, and I think that they've been agreeable in working with us and taking our recommendations and trying to take it to the finish line.
Okay, and unless anything changes here, does staff see any reason why these building permits would be held up?
No, I do not see a reason that it
Okay.
would hold them up.
All right, let me get some clarification then too, because I think I just heard that this is going to be an ongoing process during the whole project. that this event circulation plan could be changing month to month, year to year, whatever. So obviously, we're not going to have building permits in place until that is done, which could be months or.
Now,
But I just said,
Nick, what
Nick.
you said was that we have an evacuation plan that's
Get the
acceptable.
final plan.
And they're going to accept your event plan as soon as they figure out what the language is. But if all we're worrying about what the language is on the sign, we shouldn't be holding up building permits in this resolution.
Agreed.
Well, it would be unreasonable to hold up
So
a building
staff has
permit.
opined that they're not going to hold up the building permits because of this issue.
No, but that's not what the resolution says.
But why don't we, while we're
Yes, it
going to
is.
go on
It's
to
township
another,
satisfaction.
John, we'll go on to another clause. And while we're doing that, is it possible, John, that you could rewrite old number 7 to
John
take?
doesn't rewrite.
No,
The
while
solicitor.
we're here.
The solicitor.
That's who I'm talking
Oh,
about.
I thought you were talking John Fisher.
Number one.
No, you're
no-
I knew who Jim meant. Now, you know, I wasn't
no,
He was
no,
playing
no,
right there.
Number one,
Commissioner Higgins, just let me address Mr. Cornelia. That condition, Nick, and conditional use was designed to have a plan at the point of final plan approval. That's all that is. And no building permits would get issued until that plan, both of those plans, is there. This is not an ongoing obligation to, I mean, you're going to have to work, Villanova's going to have to work with the police department and the township staff, and if something changes 5 years from now, that's not connected to the building permits. It's just the initial plans that have to be in, and they're not in yet. And I believe building permits are probably a 5 or 6 week process. Kevin?
But John,
Yes.
the plans are in. They're talking about the signage on the board is all they're talking about is how long should it be, what should it say? I mean, that's not a plan.
How many building permits will be required for this?
Quite a few.
quite a few.
So the evacuation plan and the special events plan could change as we move during phasing of construction, as different areas of the site are utilized for parking, for students, for new construction, for this parking deck. So it could change throughout construction. It likely would not continue after construction is complete, but nonetheless, this is a very reasonable condition, and we've already said we will not unreasonably withhold approval.
Well,
So,
that's-
Counselor, I don't understand your objection.
That's not the wording
John,
of this
fine.
resolution. That is not
John,
how it's worded.
they submitted both plans.
We submitted 3 times.
They're refining the plan. We have the plans. Why are we going to hold up a building permit until they decide what the wordage is on the sign?
This condition was designed to get the final approval of the event circulation plan prior to the issuance of the first set of building permits. That's it. I mean, not building permits over.
The fact that Amy said that the the one plan is fine, that's
Well,
approval?
she says she's waiting for information, so let's get the info. It's 6 weeks before, if they haven't submitted for building permits, it's 6 weeks for the staff to, 6 weeks, they can have that done.
I'm just saying-
Finalize whatever needs to be finalized to her satisfaction, and then it's done.
As I
I'd like
said-
to make a motion that we add the phrase that John proposed, which is that the approval will not be unreasonably withheld.
I'll second that.
Just so the board is aware, as I've stated earlier, we've submitted this plan 3 times, December, March, and again in May, with all the comments of the consultants included in that. So as I said, my concern is that building permits, particularly ones that we need immediately, are going to be upheld until some sort of satisfaction is reached. And that's the concern. And then there's no objective standard.
There never is. I mean, go back to the old resolution. Best efforts.
And that's
You know,
why
that kind of
remember
fuzzy
25
stuff
years
comes up
later.
all the time. But if you add the township's approval won't be unreasonably withheld, then you have something, Nick, to argue about if the township becomes unreasonable.
Okay, so John Nagel, that's the nature of the spirit of yours is that we would add that language, and then number 7, that issue would be resolved.
All right, other commissioner comment? Public comment, all in favor?
Oh, hold on. Should I go to that? Oh, you just
We're
got
doing
Yeah,
one
we're gonna
item,
vote
one
on
item.
this.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 1, 2, 3, 4. Rich? Aye. 6.
Number 9, I'm just not certain what that one means. That's the one regarding the fencing on South Lathan Avenue and SEPTA right away? I'm not really positive. I know the plans already indicate that there's fencing between the project and the SEPTA tracks. So I don't know, we already have that on the plans if that's what this comment refers to.
This is a condition that came up. My understanding is at the Planning Commission that the fence that's proposed is inadequate. And I guess there is a fence proposed along the SEPTA right-of-way at this point.
Right, yeah, and
Right.
that's what, that's not my understanding, the fence was inadequate.
Well, John, how's this getting the agenda when the commissioners never discussed it?
It came out of the Planning Commission
I
as a
don't think-
recommendation.
I don't,
Unless they agree to it, and I.
The
told
purpose of
staff-
this was to prevent, we were concerned about pedestrians crossing Ithan Avenue at multiple points
Right.
between the parking garage and the dorms. We did not want that, okay? We're going to have a lot of people, if they can cross at the corner, we've allowed that. We don't want them crossing at 100 different points down Ithan Avenue to the trestle. So
this is the first time, again, we
time.
weren't aware of this, and that's not the Planning Commission. Matter of fact, I think Gannett Fleming had the conditions of the Planning Commission in their resolution. This wasn't one of them.
So, John, what are you saying, that Villanova does not have to follow this if they don't want?
You can't enforce this. It's a new condition that came up at the Planning Commission. It wasn't in the preliminary plan approval. So unless they're willing to agree to it, it's not a condition you can attach, but it's in there for discussion.
Right, so my opinion is that unless they're going to agree to it, we should not include it. We should not include it unless it's going to have the power of the resolution. I don't know if others feel different.
Yeah, and you're not accepting this, right, Nick?
We're not accepting it.
Can I have a
So,
motion?
wait, hold on. Will there be any fence
There'll be a
along that
fence,
road?
on the plans, we indicate a fence behind the development between the SEPTA tracks and the development.
But nothing on Ithan?
I don't believe there's any plan for anything.
There's fencing there now, isn't
Can
there?
we
Or
hear
there
from
was.
Alex Tweedy on it?
Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
Yeah. As Nick said, there's fencing between the railroad and the dormitories to stop any traffic going towards the railroads in an unsafe condition. And then there's fencing at select points along Ithan Avenue, at the mechanical pit and at the garage, where there's areas of retaining walls that require fencing for protection. And then the fencing that was required as part of the conditional use on the north side of Lancaster Avenue, as was the original condition of the conditional use plan.
But that fencing along Ithan then is already included in the plans.
There's fencing at the areas I spoke of, at the mechanical pit and the garage. That's what's always been on the plans. And the only comments I'm aware of, in Ritu's letter, they noted that you have to pull a fence permit for the fence between the railroad and the housing to make sure it meets all the zoning standards of a fence, which is a standard comment. But I'm similar to Nick. I don't recall any discussion previously at the Planning Commission or the board for additional fencing along Ithan that was above and beyond what was shown on the plans all along.
Don, you want to make a motion?
Okay, I just want to hear, before we strike this out, I mean, well, I'm just saying, before we even consider that, Steve Gabriel, would you like to comment on this? Were you present at the Planning Commission when this was discussed? I just want to hear the backstory to it.
Look, why don't we just refer to the plans in this paragraph? Instead of type in design approved by the township, we'll just say, the applicant shall install fencing along South Ithan Avenue and the SEPTA right-of-way as described on the plans.
Yes, that's my
Simple solution.
my
We don't need
opinion.
to hear from Steve. Come on, let's.
Well, no, hold on.
What's wrong with that solution?
He wants fencing on the whole road.
No. I want to understand why the Planning Commission took time out of their life to review this and give us a recommendation. Now, they reviewed this. I want to know what they said. I didn't see the meeting. Steve, do you want to comment?
It's not the fence itself, or I guess it is the fence itself. It's the style and design of the fence that was being discussed and raised into question and has been a consistent reference in our status report on the conditional use conditions. The fencing along Ithan Avenue does not, as proposed, does not match the fencing along Lancaster Avenue. It's not the black wrought iron style fence that is currently and is proposed for Lancaster Avenue. It's not that style along Ithan, nor is it that style along the R100.
Does the applicant object to using a consistent material for the fence?
Steve?
My understanding is the fencing for Ithan and Lancaster is the same. It's the fence along the rear to separate the railroad is going to be incorporated into the buffer. That's not a wrought iron fence. That's more of a landscape fence in the rear. So there's a different style there, but it still meets all the requirements of the code. But that fence is going to be hidden by the buffer. It's going to be incorporated into
I
the
think
buffer.
we might have agreement then. Wrought iron on Ithan Avenue, north side of Lancaster, Route 30, and landscape fence on the SEPTA right-of-way.
That's fine. Right?
Yeah. So make a motion? Jim, make a motion.
Oh, boy. Let's see.
Add the word install wrought iron fencing along.
All right, the applicant shall install wrought iron fencing along South Ithan Avenue and landscape type fencing along the SEPTA right-of-way.
Well, I would just, could we say in locations as indicated on the plans?
Yes.
Okay, that's all right with me. Is that-
Read it again, and
So it won't be the
type
whole
and
way.
design approved by the township would come out, correct, Jim?
Well, Steve didn't,
They don't have to agree
he
with
didn't
it.
refer to that. He said it was materials issues.
Okay. Is there anybody on staff that was at the planning commission meeting? that was
Before we do
part
that,
of
can we,
discussion?
there was, Jim made a motion, it was kind of disjointed, so it was difficult for me to understand it, so could I?
The applicant shall, I move that Article 9, or Section 9, be revised to read, the applicant shall install fencing along install wrought iron fencing along South Ithan Avenue and landscape-type fencing along the SEPTA right-of-way as described on the plans,
In locations. as-
in locations as described on the plans.
Yeah, the details are on the plan, so we would prefer to reference the details themselves. It's going to be an aluminum style fence, not actually a wrought iron. It's going to be wrought iron style, but it won't be wrought iron. So we would prefer language that just says the location and the details have all been on the plans all along. If we're going to put a condition in, we would prefer just reference those specific details.
Right.
And you have that type of fencing on Lancaster, North Lancaster and Ithan already now on the
Correct.
plans?
It would be a similar style.
Similar style. Okay.
I'll support just striking that the last 5 words. Instead of having it say, and design approved by the township, just say a type and design as shown on the plans.
All right, there's second to Jim's motion?
Yeah, so it's going to say the applicant shall install fencing along South Ithan Avenue and the SEPTA right-of-way of a type as shown on the plans.
On the type and locations
location
as shown on the plans.
All right. The move
This is so painful.
and second. John, are you seconding that? You want to second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Commissioner comment, public comment? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
To
Passes
number 10, that's
6 to
the,
0.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That's to number 10, that's Performing Arts Center, and this, there was a condition from the Planning Commission on that, and I think this is the intent of it. That there was just some language, I thought that the condition as published was kind of vague as what the Planning Commission really wanted, but I think we're all in agreement that if Villanova does not construct the Performing Arts Center, which they have every intent of doing, that they would have to come back with new plans for what that area would be. And it still would be in the CICD. So our only suggestion is that it says if the, and we had requested elimination of erection, construction of the, and just left if the Performing Arts Center, and then went on, except we struck the last four words that said as a parking lot, because if it's not a Performing Arts Center, it may be some other building consistent, of course, with the CICD and consistent with all the requirements of the CICD. We just don't know if it wasn't a Performing Arts Center, if it would be a parking lot or not. Again, I'm looking 10, 15 years down the road. I don't know what it would be. I just don't want any confusion again when someone else is reviewing this in the future.
John?
Sounds reasonable
Yeah,
to me.
I'm fine with those revisions. If you want me
Okay,
to
so
read, I'll read it
Go ahead, read it, John.
as revised. So
I'll motion that we modify number 10 to indicate if the Performing Arts Center is not an active development submitted to the township at the time construction is fully completed on the remainder of the project, comma, the applicant shall submit amended land development plans showing the use of the Performing Arts Center area.
Second.
No, it's showing the proposed alternate use of the PAC area, period.
Right.
Okay?
That's what it says.
Yeah.
All right, can I have a motion?
I just did.
Don did, and I second.
I'll second.
Second. Commissioner comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0.
Number 12 is just a wording thing. Actually, when we showed the elevator, we showed it on the east side, proposed church walk, not the west side. And that's really the only change there. We did consider also, if the board would consider it, not putting whether it be west side or east side, and either eliminate that area, that portion of it, or say west or east side. So that's, it's just, I know the plans we presented showed it on the east side, not the west side. And then it's, some question, I guess, would be more appropriate, the west or the east side. It's going to be constructed, it's going to be there, as indicated, as we indicated at that July 7th Board of Commissioners meeting. It's just a matter that at least the plans currently show the east side, although it could switch to the west side. I don't think it really matters one way or another, but.
So Nick, this is just when you, as I understand what you're telling me, when you get to the actual design, the designer may say it's better to have the elevator.
Correct.
Just a different, on the other side of the sidewalk, essentially.
Correct.
Okay, I don't have an issue with that.
John?
Is this,
So it should
Well-
probably say the south side of the Church Walk Bridge.
Why don't you
That's
just,
fine.
how about adjacent to Church Walk? I mean,
Well, we want it to be on the south side of the bridge.
okay.
South side adjacent to Church
I
Walk?
prefer to say south side.
All right, can I have a motion?
South side of Lancaster, I guess, is what I'm saying.
South side of Lancaster, adjacent to the bridge.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion?
Motion that we modify number 12 to say that the applicant shall install an elevator on the south side of Lancaster Avenue, adjacent to Church Walk, to provide, is that right? To provide ADA accessible entrance.
Can I have a second?
This installation shall, that second paragraph would stay in the motion, second sentence.
Second.
Commissioner comment?
Yeah, I would say that you would not use the term the south side of Lancaster Avenue. It's confusing. It is the it's the south side of the elevator complex or elevator area.
I don't think that's what John's asking for.
You wouldn't say south side of Lancaster Avenue, it's south
He doesn't want it on
side.
the other side.
He wasn't one.
Yeah, we don't need an elevator on the north side, we need it on the south side.
It defeats the whole
He-
purpose.
he's using that
I
to
don't
dis-
think it needs to be that detailed.
All right. Any public comment?
He's talking
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
south side of
13 is just another
Passes
quickie.
5-0.
I'm sorry.
Church Walk Bridge.
Be as per this plan.
He's in there.
It could be on
This
either
is a
side.
perfect time to say as per the plan.
It says, yeah.
Okay, what's the next one, Nick?
Number 13, actually, those spots are relocated to the visitor parking lot, not, the plans indicates the visitor parking lot, not the West Lancaster parking lot. Again, it's just, a matter of terminology. I think everyone agrees, everyone knows, they're indicated on the plans, and actually, that parking lot's called the visitor lot.
John, what
not
word
the
should we
West
have there then?
Yeah, visitor's fine.
Okay, can I have a,
Instead of West Lancaster parking lot?
Correct.
So the sentence with the applicant shall relocate to the visitor parking lot, and then continue.
Correct.
I would suggest a visitor parking lot located in West Lancaster. Or why, visitor parking lot could mean more than one thing.
It's indicated on the plans, I believe, as visitor parking lot.
Yeah. The plan set itself has specific parking lots identified in the parking tabulation, and that parking lot in question is noted as the visitor lot on the plans.
So I'll motion that that item 13, we change the term West Lancaster parking lot and replace it with visitor parking lot.
I have a second.
Second.
Commissioner comment?
Is there any other visitor parking lot on this entire campus? There's no other designated visitor parking lot? Absolutely certain.
If you want to say visitor parking lot is indicated on the plans, that's okay with us. I mean, if you want to be more specific. I thought you didn't want to be specific, but we'll be more specific.
I mean, what
Rich,
visitor? I mean.
Rich, we're referring to your parking lot.
Okay, so
It's on the plans.
we'll say visitor parking lot as specified on the plan.
That's fine.
All right.
And then
Wait a
finally.
minute, hold on, well, let's vote on
We
that.
gotta
I'm
vote
sorry.
on it.
Oh.
All right. Commissioner comment, public comment, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
And then finally, number 15, and that's the walking trail. We stated last time that we would certainly be willing to discuss with the township this walking or trail, on the university site. We can't agree to put it as a condition because, again, we don't know where it would be located. We can't have it as a condition that we can't occupy or whatever these buildings. If it's not installed, we're certainly willing to discuss it with the township. There's concerns regarding we would need zoning relief. We would have to give additional right-of-way, which could affect actually setbacks. So for that reason, we would just ask it be struck. And this is the first time, actually, this was not part of the preliminary plan approval. This is the first time we've seen this condition.
All right, John Rice, this condition,
This again came up at the Planning Commission. I'll defer to the manager to address this because I think he brought it up at the Planning Commission.
What I'd like to do is, since there's a concern regarding this, maybe we can substitute this. I think the trail would be one that's very easy to be able to do, but maybe we can request that as a condition of this, that Villanova would be willing to contribute 0.0017 of the project value of this cost, which is basically less than 0.2% of your project, to invest back in the community at Clem McCrone Park, which actually equals $500,000. The project value is $300 million that we've read about this, so I think $500,000 commitment to the neighbors that I know they've been through a lot, and to see this investment back into the community, I think would be something that'd be very reasonable.
do you agree to that
No, we
condition?
can't agree to
All right,
that.
so
Now,
the applicant
just-
does not agree to the condition. Can
Well,
I
hold
have a
on.
motion to
So-
remove the condition?
No, hold on. Before we remove it, we had other plans that had this in there. Ardrossan comes to mind. And in lieu of the trail, we accept cash to construct trails in the area. So I would like to tie some financial remuneration to this, such that if they don't want to build the trail, maybe we can. I don't agree with the statement that was made that there would be some setback effect. We don't change setbacks because of sidewalks, so we're not going to change setbacks because of trails. So I would like Villanova to agree that if they're not willing to do this construction of this trail, that they contribute $150,000 towards our trail system.
It was just $500,000 a minute ago.
Nick,
Well,
do
this
you,
is, I'm going to get to that later.
do you agree to that
That's-
condition?
No.
Wait, second.
Second what?
I second his motion. That was a motion.
No. The
I
fact- no, the
I
fact-
second.
Well, we have to ask.
Point of order. That was a motion. Was that framed in the?
Well, no,
The fact of the matter is the motion is out of order because we cannot require Villanova to do this condition.
It's not a matter. It's a matter of the parliamentary procedure is if there's a motion and there's a second, we can ask the applicant. Is that I heard a motion in that. That's why I
I
did
don't
a
think the
second.
motion's out of order. My sense is make a motion and see if there's 3 votes for it, 4 votes.
Let me clarify. It wasn't a motion. I was asking
it
the
wasn't a
applicant
motion.
if they would agree to, in lieu of constructing these trails, set aside monies toward our trail system.
And the applicant
Yeah,
said you don't agree, right?
We don't agree. And just remember that
60.
there is a park and rec fee that the applicant is paying
60,000.
that actually has to be devoted to parks that the applicant could
And how much is
use,
that
which would
figure?
be $176,000, I believe.
I think, yeah, this
And
would
that
be in addition to
Macomb
that.
Or, you know, or
right.
one of those parks. The park and rec fee
John, do you wanna
really
make
should
a
be going to
a
Macomb
motion?
probably, but.
Well, no, I don't need to make the motion,
Okay,
you
you
know,
said
Bill.
no.
If they're not willing to
Yeah,
do it,
we
there's
can't
no
do it.
sense of
Okay,
us
all right,
acting on it,
fine.
right?
Can
So
I
I'll
have a
make a
motion to
motion
remove
that
this
we
condition?
strike item 15 from the resolution.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Commissioner comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes? Noes?
Nay.
Passes 4-2.
That's the only
That's it.
comments I have.
Okay, any other commissioner comment on the resolution?
I'd like to ask Villanova to consider some type of in-kind contribution to the Clemacrone Park plan that we have. It doesn't have to be money. It could be agreeing to help construct. We're looking at pavilions down there, a pavilion, a restroom. And I just want to remind everyone in the room that this entire project is now in the 7th Ward, okay? So all this construction is now in the 7th Ward. And the 7th Ward residents are going to bear the brunt of all the construction, all the traffic, all the noise, all the dirt, all the headaches that have to do with this project. And I would appeal to Villanova to consider, you don't have to do it tonight, but I'd like you to consider contributing to that park renovation in some in-kind way.
And John
any way
Rice,
you'd
is
like.
it patently illegal for us to ask applicants to
No,
give
it's not.
money before we make we're allowed to ask them for money
No.
before we?
No,
you
no,
can-
it is
you
not.
can
Okay.
ask.
That's why I put it as a question.
And yeah, I'm not even making it a condition at this point.
Bob's pretty good at it, too.
And also, I would also add that it will affect the 2nd Ward as well. It's right on the corner of the 2nd Ward. And in addition, we have other trail needs over there, that specifically along Hares Lane I'm thinking of right now. So that would be a great gesture on the part of Villanova to provide financial assistance for that as well. So I would ask that that be considered.
John, to your request, we'd be happy to sit down and talk about the plan, ways we can help. Can't tie it to this, obviously, but that's a conversation that we're happy to have. We have great relationships with all the neighborhoods throughout the township, so Rich, if you want to talk about what needs you have, we might be able to help with. Certainly,
I would
very
like
likely
you,
not.
I'd like you to seriously consider the Clemacrone Park, nice contribution there. I thought Villanova had a tremendous number of recreational facilities, and therefore you would not use our parks, but I was disabused of that notion by several commissioners, and to the effect that, in their judgment, your students do use our park facilities, so.
Well, we have a great mutual relationship.
Yeah.
We're proud to use our facilities to host lots of township and school district activities as well. But to John, to your point, as far as ways we can work together that go beyond a check, things that we can do to work together, we'd be happy to look at that.
Thank you.
Any public comment?
What did we do on the very?
No public comment, we'll get there.
Hello, Matthew Marshall, 228 Walnut Avenue, Wayne. I've heard on many occasions that the applicants may or may not be required legally to contribute to off-site improvements. I think we've heard on a number of occasions that the university is not interested in the pilot or any form of the pilot. In my experience, there's always contributions committed to prior to an approval of this scale. I'm not sure why this board continues to just take, maybe the word of the applicant or goodwill instead of specific contributions to the community. This project, from my estimations, is nearing $300 million. I may be convinced otherwise, but that is a significant development of a scale that Radnor has not seen since the Radnor Corporate Center was developed back in the 1970s. We have an opportunity now to lessen the burden on the taxpayer simply by doing what your manager has requested, which is a small contribution to Clem McCrone Park, which is in a very highly developed area of the township and gets a lot of use from our citizens. The trail, maybe a $150,000 donation, is not exceptional given a development of this scale. I've heard of other communities accepting fire equipment, playgrounds, and other necessities for the community because of the services that will be required once this development is completed. I think the only thing that I've heard that's required so far to pass this approval for off-sites is a $175,000 traffic mitigation. Please, this is the time to ask. Once the approval is made, it's too late. Please do your constituents a favor and ask the applicant. Thank you.
Sarah Pilling, 29 Garrett Avenue. I just did a rough count in my head. I'd like to remind the board and Villanova University that there are in excess of 25 student houses occupied by Villanova students in our very small neighborhood. So I feel it is perfectly appropriate for Villanova to contribute to it because they use the fields all the time. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Luke Clark. I live at 500 Midland Circle. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a small portion of this project that does affect the Third Ward. I think we catch a little bit of that last storm to the west. But from a Third Ward perspective and from a Parks and Rec perspective, we have these parks that need money. We have residents coming to our Parks and Rec meetings now offering. Friends of Ithan Valley Park showed up and said, you can put a cell phone tower in Ithan Valley Park to get them money, to make sure that park is funded. So, with that being said, and I know what the opinion is on that, with that being said, let's try to get some money for these parks, please. Thank you.
And that's why we put the park and recreation fee, and Villanova's contributing $175,000 to that park and recreation fee. So the commissioners had forethought in getting money for our parks. Any other public comment? Can I have a motion to approve?
I just wonder, what did we decide on the very first three things we talked about, exhibits A, B, and C?
Satisfied by John Nagel's motion, or agreed by the board. So they stay as it, and then, no, hold on,
No.
Am I confusing them, John?
Yeah, no revisions.
No revisions. Yeah, right, no action taken on.
All right.
They have copies of the letters and all, so. Can I have a motion to approve?
I already made a motion, right?
All right,
There's already a motion.
You made a motion to approve the
Yes.
resolution as a whole,
Yes.
2015
And someone second it?
I'll second it.
It has revised.
Yes, then we did.
We have that, Jennifer? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Hold
This
on.
is on the whole motion?
Yes.
Yeah.
We already have public comment.
Well, we
On
can
the
have
whole
public
motion.
comment again, that's
On
fine.
the public, on the whole
Well,
motion.
that was public.
Yeah.
I just want to make a broad comment, because before we were wordsmithing, now I just want to make a broad comment. I just want to say that, you know, this has been a long process. It's been a tiring process for many people. I know a lot of constituents in the neighborhood are not going to be happy because of this large project being constructed in their neighborhood. And I don't know if there's much we can do about that. But I think we have worked hard at this. I think staff has done a great job. I want to thank all staff for all the meetings and all the time they've put into this. This has been going on for a couple of years now, and this is not a small project. So this has been a big piece of our lives. I want to thank Villanova for their hard work, trying to meet us partway. Look, I wanted 2 bridges. I wanted 2 ways to get students across that street without impeding traffic. That didn't happen. I really would like Villanova to consider that in the future. If you do any more projects, I really would like to see that second bridge considered. But otherwise, they really have worked with us. They came in asking for a lot more, and they're getting a lot less. They've agreed to move parking throughout the campus. Originally, that wasn't even a consideration. So they've agreed to distribute the parking issues throughout the entire campus instead of having one monolithic parking garage for everything. I'm not happy about the setbacks. I think we need a little bit more space. I would have been happier to have bigger setbacks so that we could have more opportunity for turning lanes and better traffic flow through the area. But in general, you know, these processes have to continue. The applicants have land rights. They have a right to build. We don't have a right to prevent them from building. So I'm going to vote against this tonight only because of the bridges. But otherwise, I'm glad we're finishing up.
All those in favor?
Well, can I make a statement? I wasn't going to say anything, John, but I'm voting for this. I know the residents aren't 100% pleased, but I think that the residents got due process here. We have 42 months of process. January of 2012, the plans were first delivered, the model was put in our lobby. We've had innumerable meetings before the Planning Commission, before this board, in formal session, in caucus session. We've made many, many accommodations to, as Mr. Fisher just said, parking and noise suppression, other things. So I think this is a good plan. It's a balance between what the university is entitled to under our laws and under our Constitution, for that matter, and what the neighbors asked for and what the neighbors are entitled to. So as far as two bridges are concerned, I think what we found out that the bridge at the location of Ithan Avenue and Lancaster Avenue died of its own weight because the neighbors in that neighborhood in 1993 and 1990 were opposed to it, violently opposed to it, because it would have resulted in massive rerouting of traffic through those streets. I think that came out late in the discussions, in the review of the information. I talked to several commissioners that sat on the board back then. Their recollections were hazy, but notwithstanding that, I think the bridge at Ithan and Lancaster died for that reason. So we have one bridge, and I think the Gilmore studies and the university studies indicate that the students will use that bridge, and that is, they will use it to a greater degree than a bridge at Ithan and Lancaster. So I'm glad we're finally at month 42 and we can vote. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes 4-2. Thank you. All right, can I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any commissioner want to remove anything? The public want to remove anything or comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 7-0. Appointments to boards and commissions. John?
Yeah, I'll move to appoint John Riccuti, to the Citizens Communication Council.
Second.
Raise your hand. Who seconds it?
Elaine.
Elaine? Okay. Commissioner comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 7-0.
John, there's another for RHM.
I'm not going to make that appointment.
Make a motion.
I move that we appoint John Nagel to the RHM
Yeah,
Sewer
second.
Authority.
Second?
I'll second it.
John Rice, for the record, tell us that there's no conflict. You had advised us.
Elected officials can serve on municipal authorities.
And Bob, your opinion is that it's my understanding your opinion is that you're supportive of this, that you think this will help us improve our relationship with RHM?
Commissioner comment?
I'm going to vote against it, not because I'm voting against John, but because I think ultimately, long-term, the Radnor Hereford Marple Sewer Authority is a service that we pay over $4 million a year to treat our sewage, to take our sewage. And I believe long-term, we really need to have that as a staff function, someone or multiple people on the township staff sitting on that committee because of the importance and the cost and the complexity of it, just to ensure longevity and continuity of communications over long term. So I will vote against this.
Similarly, I think that in this instance, that there could be some cause for concern, and that our commissioner need not serve on this particular board. So I think that there is a concern about the potential conflicts with other projects that we have, so I too will be voting against this.
Public comment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Nay. Passes 4-2, one abstention.
All right, I'm going to assume the position of chair at this point. This is item 6 on the agenda, the recognition of Commissioner Bill Spengler for 3 decades of public service to the Radnor Township community. We have a number of people in the audience that are here for Bill. It is my great privilege and honor to lead the effort to recognize Bill. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to present him with a piece of parchment recognizing his long service, and after I do that, I'm going to read the proclamations right here, and after I do that, I'm going to ask Bill to say a word or two, and then I will invite the public to come forward and speak. And I also want to make sure that we have our state representative, Gregory Vitale, come forward, who is sitting over here on the left in the audience. And anybody else that wants to speak, please come forward at that time. So, Bill, please stand up. All right. Bill has asked me to let the public speak before he does. Let's go down so we have some sound. Can everybody see this? Bill, this is a promulgation in recognition of William Anthony Spengler. The Radnor Township Board of Commissioners acknowledges the invaluable contributions of Commissioner Bill Spengler, lifelong resident of Radnor Township, Radnor Township Commissioner 1970 to 71, 1984 to 2015, Delaware County Commissioner 1972 to 1980, and here are his contributions to Radnor Township. Many of you aren't going to know some of these details. It's amazing what he's done. He led the Radnor community from 1984 to 2005 in obtaining state approvals and overseeing construction of the Radnor multi-use trail. That's the trail that thousands of people use in the township. He led the Radnor community from 1970 to 2014 in acquiring and preserving in perpetuity as open space Skunk Hollow, 1970, the Hare Estate, 1971, the Willows, 1973, Ditmar Park, 1995, Ardrossan Farm, we all know about that one, 1995 when your efforts began until 2014, the Radnor Environmental Park, 1996, that's on Matson Ford Road near Radnor Elementary School. The West Wayne Preserve, we had a real battle to acquire that. Hank Mahoney, Commissioner in the First Ward, helped Bill, or Bill helped him on that. That was in 1996. Similarly, the Brook Farm Trail, 1998. Veterans Memorial Park, 1999. That's right in the center of Wayne, across from the new shopping center where the old Acme was. Radnor Nature Park in Hares Lane, that's year 2000. The Leeming Track in 2001. The Sproul Conestoga Track, 2002. Woodland Avenue Track, 2003. The Goff Track, 2004. And the Friends of Radnor Trail Park in 2005. And there are two other things that Bill did that are significant. He promoted and ensured construction of sidewalks at multiple locations throughout the township from 1984 to 2013. And he promoted and ensured construction of sanitary sewers to replace septic systems for hundreds of homes in the 3rd Ward from 1984 to 2009. At one time, most of Radnor, of course, didn't have sewers, and right up until 1984, the 3rd Ward had no sewers in many locations. So, Bill, I'm very happy to present this to you. I hope we'll hang this in a suitable location within this building, and I want to congratulate you.
Thank you. It's been my honor to serve the people of Radnor Township in Delaware County because I was a county commissioner for 8 years, from 72 to 80, and it was certainly enjoyable. And I certainly appreciate all the people that voted for me in the 14 elections I won, and I lost about 6 elections, but it was a lot of good support from a lot of good people that put me in office. And I'm very thankful to Bob Zinkowski and his staff and all the managers and staff that came before him that I've worked with, the hundreds of township employees, police department, public works, recreation that I work with. They've been outstanding. But what I enjoyed most was working with my Board of Commissioners and putting some votes together. And it's appropriate that I retire now because for 45 years we talked about stormwater, and we used to have a 100-year storm every 10 years in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Then it came every other year, and now it seems every year we get a big storm. But this board with John Fisher and John Nagel and Jim Higgins and Lane putting the stormwater fee together, we really have a way to move forward and to address our flooding problems and our problems with the systems that convey stormwater. And I won 6 elections on telling everybody I was going to save some land at Ardrossan. And we finally accomplished that. We saved 70 acres and added to the Willows and Skunk Hollow and created a 210-acre park. And again, Jim Higgins and Lane and John Nagel, you know, we appreciated that. The Villanova project, you know, it's been the goal of Radnor Township ever since I've been a commissioner to get as many students on campus as we can. And that's why I supported that project. But it's going to have a wow factor. Because 10 years from now, when you drive down Lancaster Pike and you see these beautiful dorms and the bridge and the Performing Arts Center, it's going to look like a campus, not a parking lot. And that's why I supported it. Sorry it took 3 years, but we got that done. And other commissioners, Ted Pollard served with me when he was my second, and we were outvoted 5-2 all the time, but he was there to support me with the trail and with open space. And Peter Brindle and John Nagel were working on the park board, on open space, and also the trail. And then I have to thank Hank Mahoney and Jim Pierce and Clint Stenenbach, because we worked together. All those pieces of land that we bought, it wasn't just me, it was those commissioners and some of the commissioners here that voted with me to do that, and we had all those accomplished, had the foresight to set that land aside. And in the end, Hank was always for the trail, Jim Pierce was always for the trail, Clint was always for the trail. He just supported the Republican Party. And but when the vote came in '99, where we had a vote to maintain the trail, the state wasn't going to build it, Clint voted with us so that the trail moved forward. So I've been very fortunate to have a lot of good commissioners. Lisa Paolino and Michelle Higgins passed away. I worked with them. I worked with Enrique Hervada and Jim Marks. I go back to Bernie White and Bob Emlin and Bob Fitzgerald and Frank Robinson and just many, many commissioners. And so I appreciate all the support I've got from the people of Radnor, from the staff, and really from the, couldn't have done anything, couldn't have got the sewers, I couldn't have planted trees without Chris Woods coming forward with the money and now Bill Thomas from Chanticleer. And we've accomplished a lot, and I'm very proud of it. And as I think, and I'll be able to think over the years of all the things that I've been accomplished working with the people of Radnor and working with the staff and working with the Board of Commissioners. I got a lifetime of memories to think about, and I'll feel good the rest of my life. Thank you very much.
I want to ask our current elected state representative, Greg Vitale, to come up and make a few remarks. I know that Representative Bill Adolph wanted to be here, and he was going to co-sponsor with Greg a resolution in our state legislature. I'm assuming Greg will talk about that. I also want to have Hank Mahoney, former commissioner in the First Ward, served for 16 years with distinction, make some remarks. And am I missing any other former elected officials? I hope not. Greg, please.
Yes, Representative Adolph is chairman of the Appropriations Committee, so he's in Harrisburg working on the budget, probably trying to restore those Corbett education cuts and getting a robust severance tax for us. But he has asked me to, on behalf of, to read this to Bill. Dear Commissioner Spengler, first I want to congratulate you on your retirement and thank you on behalf of the Radnor community for your dedication and service to our great community. It is because of public servants like you who dedicate their time and expertise that Radnor is such a desirable place to live. I can assure you that I am sure you will thoroughly enjoy spending more time with your family in retirement. I'm very sorry I could not be here in person to present you with this citation. It was my hope and desire to be there, but as the Majority Appropriations Chairman, I have to be in Harrisburg during the citation presentation as we continue to work on finding an agreement on the state budget. Once again, I wish you all the best in retirement and thank you for all you have done over the years for the Radnor community. Sincerely, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, before I present the citation, and it's interesting because when I called in, because when I was asked to be here, and thank you for inviting me, I called in for a citation to have it done because that's really when important things happen in the state. This is the way the House of Representatives acknowledges them with a citation. So when I called in for it, I was told, no, one's already been ordered by Representative Adolph. So we decided to go on a joint one, and that is what we have to present today. But I just kind of, as I was sort of thinking about what I was going to say to Bill, and this is a little off the wall, but there's an old cartoon in the New Yorker where two sort of emaciated stick figures are in a dungeon, and both their arms and legs are sort of chained to the walls and the floor. And one is saying to the other, and there's no hope, but one's saying to the other, okay, here's my plan. And that kind of reminds me of Bill and his attitude of always thinking outside the box, never giving up, always having that positive attitude. It's like I sort of view Bill not so much as a Radnor commissioner, but sort of as a Delaware County Democratic icon. And I'm always, hearing these stories about Bill winning an election by 5 votes because he had this strategy of absentee ballots or just other things, putting together coalitions of Democrats or Republicans to buy this land, and always sort of doing those things that sort of people just said, it can't be done. He sort of always has that plan, and that's why I kind of think of that old New Yorker cartoon. And I'm glad that I sort of saw you here on your last day and this big deed being accomplished. I won't read the citation because a lot of your accomplishments are mentioned in here, but I just do want to say how much a joy it's been to work with you as a commissioner, but also happy that you're going to keep working. We were talking the other day, and you were telling me about your plan for the 161st seat, and I'm not going to go into that because it's secret. But But it's the idea of it he's going to continue to just sort of keep working. And Bill, you make you're a role model for us, and you make us proud. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm not running for the 161st seat. There's a special election August 4th. I'm going to go help campaign for that person. So I don't want to start rumors.
Hank Mahoney, please.
Hi, Hank. Good to see you.
Yes. Nice to see you. This is the second time I've been out since I went out of office at the end of 2011. And given the length of the meeting, I can understand why I did that. Some things never change. I had the good fortune of being a commissioner from the First Ward from 1996 through 2011. And during that time, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of really good commissioners. And Bill mentioned a few already: Clint Stunnebeck, Enrique Hervada, Jimmy Pierce, Bill Black's another one that comes to mind right away. And I think Bill is right up there with any of them. He's been an excellent commissioner. He's a bit of an enigma, but a good enigma. On the one hand, he's out there during a campaign working like heck to get himself elected or reelected and to get good, worthy Democrats elected as well. But when he walked into this room and sat up at that dais, he had one interest and one concern only, and that was to do the right thing for the people of Radnor Township, regardless of their political persuasion. So I had the opportunity to witness that over many, many years and was always impressed with how he did that. In the 16 years I worked with Bill, not once did he ever ask me to trade a vote. He always said, you take every issue on its own and you deal with it on its own. You don't trade votes. And I think that shows a lot of integrity in this man. In addition to Bill being a good commissioner, he had a lot of fun at the job too. He's one of those guys who took his work and his position seriously, but he never took himself seriously. He always poked fun at himself, and he always liked to have a good time. A good example of that was during the Radnor Trail battle. That's really what got me involved in local politics, was the Radnor Trail. And I was in favor of it, as Bill was. And at one point in the debate, Bill was up against a lot of opposition, very small but very vocal opposition, who actually went out and got signs saying, "Stop Spingler, stop the trail." And of course, later on, the board voted to approve the trail, and I believe the public, in a non-binding referendum, actually approved the trail as well. And several years later, after the trail was built, Bill had the opportunity to have the last laugh, and I'd like to share this photograph, if they can put it on the overhead. It's a picture of Bill holding up the sign which says, "Stop the whitewash, stop Spingler and Brindle, no bike trail." So, like I said, Bill always had a way of having fun with this position. I enjoyed working on the board with him, and they broke the mold when Bill came along, and we're going to miss him tremendously here in Radnor. Bill, I wish you a lot of luck in your retirement, and thanks for everything you've done for Radnor.
Thank you, Hank.
You can keep it, it's yours.
I'm going to just ask anybody in the audience now to come up. I know we have some school board members here. We have some, our party chief, the Democratic Party is here. My old friend Sonia Kling is here. And we have maybe the commissioners. At this point, should we have?
We're going to be here all night.
Let the public? Okay. All right, please come ahead.
I'm George Beatty, chairman of the Radnor Democratic Party, and I'm so proud that Bill Spengler is a Democrat. Bill has done so much for this community. I know I'm only going to talk for about a minute because I know so many people are here tonight to get up and to say a few words for Bill. I'd just like to say, 100 years from now, in the year 2115, when we're all gone, the trail will be there, the open space will be there, and Bill Spengler's legacy will always be here in Radnor. Thank you so much for everything you've done, Bill.
I'll say if it's
Lorraine Hickey and Pat Riley.
Lorraine, I don't need you. I know. Hi, do I have to give my name?
Yes.
I'm Lorraine Hickey. To me, the name Bill Spengler means Radnor Democrat. For approximately 30 to 40 years, Bill Spengler has been one of the most knowledgeable and hardest working Democrat in Radnor Township. In fact, Bill Spengler has been the heart of the Radnor Democrats. He's going to be greatly missed, and I want to thank you, Bill, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I've known Bill in many ways. He was my Little League coach for the Tigers in Wayne Little League in the 70s. I'm friends with his son, Billy. I knew him as a sort of a church father at St. Catherine's. Then I became commissioner, and I knew you as a peer and commissioner. So I liked and respected Bill all along the way, the whole way, every one of those ways I liked and respected him. George, you said there's a lot of people that are proud that Bill's a Democrat. There's a lot of Republicans that are proud that he's a Democrat, too. But I will say now that one thing for me in my time as commissioner, Bill has always been completely honest with me, and his word is solid. So anytime I talk to him about anything, he tells me what's on his mind. And when I come here, he says exactly what he told me in private. So that's something that I always respected and appreciated from Bill. So thank you for your service, Bill.
Thank you.
I would like to just point out and have everybody think for a minute about how extraordinary it is to serve as a public servant to a small community like this for 3 decades. I've been doing this for 6 years, and it's not easy. I mean, we're in a small town here, and every decision you make, some people don't like it, and some people, you're always going to have detractors. And as you sit on this board and the years go by, you start to accumulate detractors because the more and more decisions you make, the more and more detractors you get. And this man has been on this board, he's been elected 6 times, despite making very controversial decisions for over 25 years in this small town. It's really something that's stupefying. And I think about it, and I think it's because his ward reelected him again and again. Even the detractors elected him because of his dedication, and he really, every decision he made, every issue that he got on board with, it was for the betterment of this township for the long term. And sometimes those decisions aren't really that popular in the short term. But Bill always thought long term, and as George said, in 100 years, his decisions and his work will be lasting forever. So I'm so grateful to be a recipient of that forward thinking and the tenacity that took him through 6 elections in this small town. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank Bill for his service to the community. Like Elaine, I've been on the board for 7 years, and this is probably the most difficult thing I've ever done in terms of public service. And Bill's done it for a lot longer. So, Bill, you're definitely a man of your word. Like Don said, if you had an opinion or a position, you were very steadfast on that. And I'll tell you, he's the most formidable guy you ever want to come up against, because if there's anything you want to do and he doesn't want it to happen, it's not going to happen. So, Bill, good job. Thank you.
Well, I would just like to finish by introducing my 101-year-old mother-in-law, Grace. She's in the back of the room. Stand up, Grace. I was married to Grace's daughter for 45 years, Phyllis, and needless to say, I started in politics my senior year at Villanova when I got married and moved into Wayne. And Grace was my babysitter. And just to give you an example, in 1975, when I ran for county commissioner, Phyllis and I went to 105 chicken dinners. That's a lot of babysitting. And Grace never charged me, and I appreciate it. And Grace has lived with me for the last 8 years, and it's been wonderful. And the other person I'd like to introduce, I got engaged 2.5 years ago, and I said, we're going to vote on Villanova 13. We're going to get married at the beginning of 14, and we'll be off and running. And she still doesn't believe we're getting married, but Barbara Paolizzi, I'm moving to Paoli the end of this month, and we're getting married, okay? Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it, and I look forward to working and seeing you all in the future. Thank you.
All right. At this point, I would like to excuse Bill, and so he can go into the lobby. And all of you that came out to support him and salute him are invited to go out there with him. There are refreshments, and you can talk, and he can commiserate with you about his experiences. Okay?
You're going to continue the agenda without me?
We can recess.
No, go. Move it.
But you got to come back, Bill.
Yeah, you've got to come back.
You're not done
You
for
don't need my
the...
vote on anything, right? All right.
Well, you're going to wind the meeting up. We're not going to let you...
Bill, we're not going to rescind the Villanova vote, so don't worry.
All right. Let's let the room get cleared. Thanks, Greg. Thank you. All right, let's recess for 5 minutes. We are back in session. I hope our telecommunications man, Mr. Doling, we do have a quorum. And the next item.
Public participation we never did.
We have, you're right, thank you. We're going to do public participation. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to talk on any subject other than Bill Spengler?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, if I could, just real quick, as we head into public participation.
Whoa, Marty! Come on, Marty!
Well, thank you very much.
Well, we're also going to oil up the microphone stand there. No, just real quick, for those who are at home watching the meeting and have Comcast, we understand that we're having trouble with audio. So those folks are only getting the video right now. Well, what we're going to do on the screen, Jim Doling's going to put a message on the screen saying that we understand there's a problem. He's working on that right now as he manages this meeting. But we want to assure everyone that the YouTube video will have full audio, as will any of the playbacks once the problem's resolved. So just wanted to make that announcement real quick.
Thank you, Bill. I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Spengler.
Where were we?
Public participation.
Public participation. Marty, you're on.
Well, thank you. My name is Marty Costello, and I'm here tonight to talk about the Wall of Honor that's going to be finished and completed by the end of this year at Radnor High School. I worked with Mark Salinger with this, and the superintendent of schools, Michael Kelly. He was into my school, and he wanted to know what was going on and how it was going to, what was going to happen. What I've tried to do over the last couple of years with the help of Jack Norman, now a junior at Radnor High School, is to develop this Wall of Honor. And Dr. Kelly wanted to know how it was going to work. I've gotten the help of the class of 1965 from Radnor High School, the class of 1966, some of its members, to work with the class of 2016 and the class of 2017, the present students, to work on the design and the wording of what will go up on this wall at Radnor High School. What I've talked about before you is approximately 56 members of the Radnor High School lost their lives in the battles and the wars of our nation in the 20th century. 5 from World War I. First 2 students from Radnor High School to be killed in battle were Mr. William Bateman and Mr. Edward Gallagher. It just so happens that the World War I vets named our Legion post on Lancaster Pike the Bateman-Gallagher post. Mr. Bateman graduated from Radnor in 1911, and Mr. Gallagher graduated from Radnor High School in 1913, and they both lost their lives in France, and they are both buried there now. But one of the things that we have been continuing is honoring different veterans as the years go on. And this year, and I've asked Mr. Fisher to help me on this, is the class of 1965 is having their 50th reunion in October. And one of the members of the class of 1965 who lost his life November 10th, 1968 was John Murphy. And we're having a very difficult time finding any information about John Murphy, even though it's only been 50 years. We know when he died, we know what outfit he was in, et cetera, where he lived in Garrett Hill, right across from the Shannons, right down from where I lived when I was a kid. But anybody who has any information on John Paul Murphy, who was killed in Vietnam in November 1968, please contact Mr. Fisher. Commissioner Fisher is going to be part of a Facebook operation trying to gather information about John and what happened to him, where he's buried, what happened to his wife, what happened to his mom and dad. His dad suffered tremendously because of this loss of his son. But we have a couple of months to go before we make another presentation like we did with James Montgomery Whiteman, the class of 39, and Larry Merschel, class of 66. And we're going to honor John Paul Murphy, class of 65, and Donald Burris, another member of the class of 65 who was killed. And but any help that any citizen from Radnor Township, from Garrett Hill, from Commissioner Fisher will be greatly appreciated, because when we honor these men who gave their lives, and these women, we want to do it properly. So that's why I'm here tonight. I really want this done and these men honored, and this wall that will go up at Radnor High School honoring the 56 Radnor High School graduates who gave their lives so we could be here tonight to do this democratic thing, and it's a wonderful honor. Before I do leave, I do want to thank Mr. Bill Spengler for all the help he gave me as an individual, my family, and all the businesses along Lancaster Pike during a very tumultuous time for the Radnor, for the Wayne Master Plan. Everything that you said about him was true. If he told you something was going to happen, it happened. And a lot of the things that Bill did, as not a politician, but just as a human being, whether it be cutting somebody's grass or helping them with different things as a human being, is extraordinary. And Bill, you are an extraordinary human being and a great American. And I thank you for that, and I thank you for your time. And God bless you, and good luck in the future. You have a great future ahead of you, and you're a beautiful man. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Hi, I'm Jill Huntelman in the Ward 7 area. Hi, honey. And I'm here, I'm part of the Garrett Hill 4th of July Parade Committee, and I'm here actually just to tell you guys how wonderful staff is. Between Public Works, who helped clean up the park and make sure it was spiffy for our over 1,500 people who attend each year, to Public Safety, the police were awesome in helping us make sure it was a safe event. It was, and to Parks and Rec, just everybody here has been just awesome in helping out with the 4th of July parade. It was another great year. We had 1,300 hot dogs, 1,200 beverages that were given out, great lineup, and it was raining. And Commissioner Spengler, you came, and Mr. Higgins as well as Mr. Nagel, and we just appreciate all the support. It's our 66th year, and again, it can't be done without the township support and without your support as well. So we just wanted to thank you, and hope to do it again next year. Thanks.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Can we go to...
Mr. President, if we may, before we go, I'll keep this brief. As everyone knows, or hope to know, that Pope Francis will be visiting Philadelphia coming up in September. With thousands of people expected for that event, Radnor will be impacted by this. We have been meeting internally with staff. We know that our emergency management operations have been also discussing this. We've been having meetings. I know Delaware County has had a meeting already. Our internal staff have met with SEPTA last week. We know that safety of our residents and our businesses is first and foremost. And we will continue to have this dialogue. We know that we're going to be communicating with our residents, hopefully with 2 mailings and also utilizing our Code Red message system. SEPTA had informed us that there will be selling 10,000 tickets for the train. That will be the R5, I believe, Bill. 10,000 tickets that will be sold, so that means there will be 10,000 people coming to Radnor to take the train from the Radnor stop. There'll be only 2 stops on that line going into Philadelphia on those 2 days. One is Paoli, the second one is Radnor. Those are the only 2 stops going into the city, and that'll be going to the 30th Street station. So you have to have a ticket to go in. So 10,000 people will descend upon Radnor Township. For the R100, the trolley, there are no limit to the amount of people that can come and take that into the city. Those will only be inbound trains. There will be no trains coming out. So we are preparing for that onslaught of traffic and people for that day. Our emergency response will be continuing to work on this. We'll be notifying residents. As part of this, I know that we'll be using our public access channels as well, but we'll be trying to inform the residents on a continual basis. We'll be trying to use every avenue we can. I know the commissioners have a lot of emails, and their email list will be asking them to push this out too, but all the avenues we can. But I know we will have a big impact here in this community, but to let everybody know we're already out in front of this, and as the information continues to keep coming out for us, because it has changed quite a bit almost by the day. But I believe those tickets will go on sale next week, and they anticipate those being sold out. So we know that there's tour lines that we have found out. Tour bus companies will be coming in. They promise people to get to a certain point, which there is no way they're going to be allowed there. So we know that we anticipate tour buses coming in. And again, once the word gets out that you can take the trolley into town, there's no ticket required. We know there'll be an impact there. So we are ready, and as soon as we get firmer details, we'll be trying to pass that along as much as possible. Just so everyone knows, there will be a big cost that is unbudgeted for this. There is no reimbursement coming from anyone on this. We know that Philadelphia, I believe, has requested $11 million for their expenses. So we're not sure if the state is going to be reimbursing anyone or not. But we know this is a direct cost to our budget, which we have not budgeted for. So as we're starting to put some estimates together, we will try to bring that to the board sometime in August. That's all I have.
So Saturday and Sunday, there'll be no regular service. There'll just be buses of trains going in to Philadelphia, stopping at only Paoli and Radnor.
Correct.
And then at 5:30, there'll only be trains coming out taking people to those two stops.
Correct.
So Saturday and Sunday, you will not be able to get a train unless you go to Paoli and Radnor and are going to the paper.
For the ones on the R5, they're only going inbound, so you will not be able to get on that train unless you have a ticket.
Yeah, but there's no other trains running.
No.
They're shut down for those 2 days, just
That's
the special
it.
trains.
Correct.
And then the trains at 5:30 will be coming the other direction.
That's correct.
Both days.
Correct. And I believe also, too, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, I think 76
Yeah, Schuylkill
is
Expressway
going
will be shut down?
I believe it's going to be shut down.
Right at City Avenue, I believe, right, Chris? Yeah.
From City Avenue in?
Yes, will be
So,
shut down.
Schuylkill will be open from City Avenue out.
Right. So,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
All right, let's go to Public Works and Engineering.
We are looking at a request from the corporate entity 240 Radnor Chester Road, and this is a request for our board to waive our ordinance requirement that the applicant comply with our stormwater ordinance. And well, the applicant can explain what's going on here.
Nick Kennelly representing the applicant. Shelley Gross is here, who's really the corporate entity on this, and then Alex is involved in it too. This is all a result of the new traffic signal being installed at Raider Road and Radnor Chester Road. As a result of that new traffic signal, Shelley has to redesign his site from an ingress and egress standpoint, all to his cost. Basically, he's benefiting the township and the school district by doing this. He has already proceeded to the zoning hearing board and did get relief on impervious coverage because he was increasing his impervious coverage, I think, by 1.5% over what currently exists. So it's a very small increase in impervious. Also, this site, you may recall, was redeveloped probably around 2009 or so. And prior to that time, it did have no stormwater management, but a parking structure was built in the rear here. And they also did stormwater management, fully designed it, and actually over-designed the stormwater management system when they installed this. So just to go over quickly the existing conditions, here's the building that we're talking about at 250 Radnor Chester. You see the current driveway is here. The ingress and egress is right here. The school district site, Raider Road, here's Raider Road here. So as you probably know, and I'll show you on another plan, that this is being realigned to provide a traffic signal here. And as a result, Shelley will have to redesign his parking lot in addition to that so that it comes in conjunction with where the light is. Because if he still had to ingress and egress here, it would drastically hinder his site, the ability of his tenants here to both ingress and egress the site because of the backup due to the light. It would be basically impossible to do. So in any event, as I mentioned, here's the current roundabout that he has for ingress and egress. Here's Raider Road. Further complicating the matter is there's a sewer line utility line in front of this site that makes it impossible to do stormwater management in that area. So this here is an existing I believe a sanitary sewer line through this site, and there's also other utilities in that area as well. Skipping to what the plan shows, as we mentioned, what Shelley is doing is he's removing this driveway and actually putting the driveway, pardon? Or not, that's not being removed? Okay. Alex, why don't you come up and explain what's going on here?
Yeah, as Nick had noted, this is the location of the existing driveway, and you can see this is where the existing turnaround was. In order to align with, there's two separate projects. The turn lanes are being installed by the school district, and then the traffic signals being installed by the township. In order to align with those turn lanes, make a four-way intersection and create a four-way intersection, we are realigning our driveway and basically extending the driveway from this turnaround bulb to align and line up with that existing access point. The existing driveway has to be maintained for truck deliveries because of the nature of this turn. The delivery trucks can't make enough movement, so we've discussed with PennDOT to have a limited use of this existing driveway just for delivery traffic. So as part of that, we're basically in paving this amount of additional impervious on the property, which was the basis of the zoning relief that we sought and received from the zoning board.
I'm going to talk about the swale, too,
Yeah.
the swale.
And as discussed originally, the sanitary sewer easement cuts through this same portion as well. So all the water flows in this area kind of above that sanitary sewer easement. So when we first started talking about that, we met with township staff to discuss the problems with stormwater management due to the conflicts with some Verizon and Synesis telecom utilities in this area and the sanitary sewer line. And we noted that we would be willing to work with the township to support their project and realign this driveway, but we'd need to be able to work together on stormwater for the project because of the issues with the sewer line. So what we've offered to present is, instead of piping it in a sewer pipe under the street, we've agreed to drain it to a low point and let it flow through the grass in what's called a bioswale, which is stormwater BMP that you're starting to see more and more of, which slows the water down, helps filter for water quality, and also lets the grass and the plants absorb some of that water. So it does have a stormwater benefit to it. It just isn't a typical detention basin that would be required by the stormwater ordinance because of the proximity to the sewer line. It can't be installed within, a typical detention basin can't be installed within the limits of the sanitary sewer. So we're presenting, this bioswale as an effort to support the waiver request.
And just a couple other points. PennDOT, this is a state road, as you're aware, Radnor Chester Road. PennDOT approached Shelley and asked if he had any opposition to the project, to the traffic signal, due to the need to relocate his drive. And he said at this point he did not have any objection, even though this cost is costing him, and he's paying for it himself, $200,000 to realign his drive. So really, he's perfectly fine the way the drive currently exists, but in order to accommodate everyone and everyone knows the need for this traffic signal. Shelley has agreed with PennDOT and has stated that he has no objection at this time to relocating his driveway and providing the necessary means in order for this traffic signal to be constructed. Township staff I'm sure will say that they've met many times with Shelley over this project. I know he's met with Roger and Amy numerous times, and Steve Norsini as well, regarding the design of it. He's had his own traffic engineer, traffic planning design, who's actually the traffic engineer for the school district. He's worked closely with them on attempting to design this as well. And so he's worked very proactively with township staff and the township consultants in order to arrive at a satisfactory design. So what we're asking the board to do is grant a waiver from the stormwater requirements just for this addition that is being proposed here that you see on the plan. We're not asking for any waiver on anything else except for the additional impervious resulting from this addition here.
And one more thing to note, as Nick noted, Radnor Chester Road is a PennDOT road. This improvement drains to a PennDOT storm sewer, and is subject to approval by PennDOT. Traffic Planning and Design has submitted that application. It went through one round of reviews and was actually just resubmitted for approval. The same issue with a stormwater, it's not really a stormwater waiver, but they recognize they have an internal informal policy for what they call a de minimis stormwater impact. This project met that provision, and PennDOT is also not requiring any stormwater due to the nature of the benefits provided and the limited impact for the increased impervious for this project.
So the impervious is really the dark blue areas that you're showing right there on that drawing. So the dark blue is the new impervious, and then the red portion is actually impervious that's being removed.
Correct. And then the gray is the existing driveways.
I'd love to hear from our staff. I guess, Roger, this is probably you that can opine about this.
Sure. Well, they had submitted the grading permit for this, and obviously what they're proposing does not meet the ordinance, which is why they're in front of you tonight. It is, if I could ask Alex to take the board through the numbers, if you could, I know you show it on the diagram, what's additional and what's replacement. If you could take them through the actual numbers for the impact.
Yeah, it's a 7-acre property, and like we noted before, the blue is the new impervious and the red is the removed impervious. So it's a net increase of about 2,500 square feet of impervious. From a stormwater perspective, it's only a it's actually, let me get the exact, well, that's the percentage, yeah. It's basically a 1% increase in stormwater flow from the property, and like we said, PennDOT views that as a de minimis impact. It's only, the unit of measure is cubic feet per second. It's only 0.3 cubic feet per second more stormwater in the area, and that's modeled without taking any credit for the bioswale. So,
can you estimate the credit for what you would be able to?
Not really. I mean, my opinion is that it offsets the improvement, but you can't really model that, or else we would have presented it. But we believe it offsets the impact because of the de minimis nature of it.
Is it the maximum size of a bioswale that you can fit there?
Yeah, I mean, bioswale improvements are basically length driven. So it drains from, the bioswale starts at the low point of the roadway and basically goes, the inlet that picks it up is directly at the border of the property. This is the new Brandywine restaurant strip center. So we've maximized the length of grass area that it flows through from the driveway, which the location is dictated by alignment with the road. And then obviously the property line, we have to end the drain on our property. So the bioswale is maximized for length in that area.
Can it drain the other way?
No, that goes uphill.
And as Alex mentioned earlier about the location of the sanitary sewer, we're requiring them to not do any type of stormwater improvements within that sanitary sewer easement because you can create issues with with infiltration, and we want to keep that a good distance away from that sanitary sewer, which kind of, Alex, if you can show them again where the sanitary is in relation to where the bioswale is.
Correct. The bioswale is in this dotted line. It might be a little hard to see, but it travels right here. And then the sewer easement comes this way and cuts across. And actually, this is the original survey. It might be a little crisper here. The sewer line cuts right along the base of that turnaround and then cuts at an angle to the same corner. So our bioswale comes over the top of it, and we actually had to put the drain on the far side of the sewer easement and then tie into the existing storm sewer in the street behind that sanitary sewer easement.
Will the bioswale, will that will have some opportunity for infiltration and also respiration? Or
Yeah,
is
I mean-
it just strictly a swale? I mean,
No,
bioswale
that's-
normally has.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you call it a bioswale, because it's more than
Right.
just a swale. It's planted with thicker grasses, longer grasses, and basically the benefit for the bioswale is evapotranspiration, which is basically, instead of infiltrating it into the ground, which we don't want to promote because of the sanitary sewer, you count on the plants to suck up the water and evaporate it up into the air. So you plant it with thicker grasses, slows the water down and absorbs more water, which is where you get your benefit from the stormwater perspective.
So am I right that there are some other plans for this site, redevelopment plans coming down the pipeline that are more,
Yeah, there
obviously
are-
more involved in
The
this?
zoning board did approve an addition to this building approximately in this area, entirely in the PB zoned area, approximately in this area.
And will that,
There's an office addition. And involved with that also, Shelley acquires several properties, residential properties that are just going to be kept basically open and provide additional buffer for the neighbors over in this area.
so I'm assuming you'll have stormwater management obligations with that new?
We will, yes.
So what do you think?
And that would be before, that would come before this board for land development, of course.
So what do you think of making a commitment to do, let's say, 1% better on those, with those plans to make up for this?
I have to defer to Shelley on that. You got to come up.
Get a mic.
Yeah.
As those, Sheldon Gross. Hello, Commissioner Schaffer. We are planning, as I've discussed in the past, we acquired 14 Radnor Way, which is right in this area. 14 Radnor Way in itself has some drainage issues. Our plan was to capture water along the area where 14 Radnor Way adjoins our property, and then also incorporate a stormwater management program for whatever development we accomplish on this property within the PB zone. I don't know the calculations now, but as far as we're concerned, we're very proactive for the community. That's why we're spending $250,000 here for really no benefit to us at all. And we're committed to doing what's necessary to be able to capture the water and be able to manage the stormwater. Just so you also know, the design on the garage, although we were not a party to the development of the garage, it was actually over-designed for stormwater management when that garage was built. The structure was built in 2009, which is post-2005 stormwater, and it was sized in excess of what the requirement was at that point.
Another comment about the future project. Currently, on this site here, which Shelley is also acquiring, there is a non-conforming office building that is going to be removed.
Yeah, the office building is within 18 feet of the street right now, and the whole site is non-conforming, which we're going to be creating over 2 acres of green space between Radnor Way and our property, which will be landscaped, and we're going to be putting up 20 to 25-foot Norway spruces. That's our intention, to be able to create 24/7 screening between the residential community and all of the commercial properties to their west. So ultimately, the residential community is going to have a very significant benefit derived from what we're
So, I mean, I look at this and I agree it is a pretty de minimis project and a de minimis displacement. And I appreciate that that you're putting the bioswale in there. I especially appreciate it because the more examples of that working in our township, the better, so that other people put them in. But as you know, we are clinging and clawing in this township to avoid every drop of water coming into our systems because we have a real problem. So I would be more inclined to approve of a waiver if I was assured and had a commitment that when this project coming down the pipeline comes in front of us, it's going to make up for what couldn't happen on this tiny little de minimis spot.
I feel comfortable that you will be very pleased that we will be exceeding your 1%.
So is that a commitment?
Yes. I don't see that as being an issue.
Okay.
So hold on. So I think so I agree with what Commissioner Schaefer said. It sounds to me in good faith you're going to do all this stuff, but I think the waiver should be conditional or temporary in such a way that what they don't do now, they have to do when they come back before us. And I just want to make sure that we capture that. And John, I don't know what the mechanism is. If we just put it in the wording of the waiver.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very small.
No, Bill, the point.
No, you quantify it and just say, okay, so you're going to do 1% more.
Well, it's actually 0.3 cubic feet per second.
Go ahead.
Per second
Yeah, I'll
more.
let the expert.
I think that was the number you gave us.
What I would propose we do, if that's the desire of the board, I would write the waiver in that any future application for land development, the pre-development analysis during that application would be the site as it exists today prior to the relocation of the driveway. And then that would basically require us to do stormwater for this project and the development project at the same time, because the target condition would be today, not after the driveway, which would allow us to do that stormwater for both projects when we come in with the larger scale project.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You got that language?
Hold on, John, do you?
How are you going to say? How are you going to say that? Also, wait, I'm confused because that seems to go the other way because there's less impervious now, so you'd be designing with a lesser, right?
That's the pre-development target. So there's a lower flow leaving the site today. So when we develop, we have to bring our flow after development down to that threshold. So you want the lower target in your pre-development scenario.
I'm sorry, John, you said there's another issue?
Just bringing the consultant fees, the escrow, up to, I know there's an issue that's been out there. Sorry. Voice is a little scratchy tonight, but the other condition ought to be that whatever the professional consultant's escrow is, because I don't know that it's been addressed. Shelley, you can tell me if it has been. My understanding from the consultants is it has not been brought up to zero. So there's been a lot of work and a lot of things that have occurred, but that ought to be a condition also attached to this approval, attached to the waiver.
Yeah, I think the only thing, Shelley and I did go over some of those consultant fees, and we just had some question on whether they were really for Shelley's site or were they for the development of the traffic signal itself. And that was really the question that we had. And I forget if I mentioned it to you, John, or I know I mentioned it to somebody at one point.
Right, but it's got to be resolved. I mean, that should be easy. There's been a lot of meetings and a lot of emails and a lot of back and forth over the traffic signal and requests for the township's professionals to get involved. So I don't know what the balance is, but it needs to be resolved. And I would say, as a condition to the township's satisfaction, that gets resolved.
Are we voting on this tonight? One of us needs to make a motion with these conditions?
So it'll be a conditional waiver?
Yeah.
Conditional waiver, and John, you'll put the verbiage around this?
Yes.
Okay.
So
You said 250, but it's 240?
It's 240, right?
Yeah, okay.
240 Radnor Chester.
And hang on. John, the professional consultant escrow must be brought up to what?
Needs to be resolved to the satisfaction of the township. Because if there is other work being done that's unrelated to this specific area, then there's some reason to discuss that, but there's been a lot of work generated involving the movement of this driveway.
And John,
Okay, does the applicant agree to this?
I would ask that it be, again, maybe we use the word reasonable. Well, go ahead.
It's always reasonable, Nick.
Yeah, I'm going to be very candid. When we purchased the property in 2013, I then became aware of the traffic signal going in. As a good community member, I worked with the township and the school district and PennDOT to be able to facilitate the traffic signal. I do believe that it brings us a huge benefit to the community. I think the traffic enhancement for Radnor Chester Road with the 2 left-hand turn lanes, the traffic signal, and the pedestrian crossing that is going in are excellent improvements, particularly since there's a significant flow of pedestrians now crossing from the high school side to the restaurant side of 200 Radnor Chester Road. The byproduct of the traffic signal going in was that it would seriously impact negatively not only the value of our property, but the ability for our tenants to be able to have access, ingress and egress to Radnor Chester Road, because the queuing at the light will, 4 cars would prevent other vehicles from getting out of our property or getting into our property. Now, admittedly, the traffic signal may be have an adaptive device to it that may allow it only to be limited to certain times, but it still would have a negative impact on our property. Hence, we originally budgeted $100,000 to do this transaction. We're well over $260,000 now, and it included moving a utility pole, which we spent $23,000 on. It includes moving Verizon services, which is another $18,000. It includes moving SunnySys services, which is another $12,000. It included an HOP application for $25,000. It included a grading permit application for over $15,000. And while the township have spent money and time on working with our property and on our property to be able to have the traffic signal go in, we actually get zero benefit from the traffic signal and zero benefit. Actually, it's a negative impact to us. I'm doing this as a good neighbor, and I came forward proactively working with the township and the staff, and they've been extremely cooperative. I mean, I have no bones about what's been happening, but a significant portion of what Mr. Rice is referring to now relates to the issues concerning the traffic signal, which I don't feel as if I'm responsible for. So hence, I will own up to whatever responsibilities that are on site for our property, and I'm glad that you've considered the stormwater waiver, because I think it's imperative. Time is of the essence. The township plans to put in the traffic signal by the end of August. Radnor School District has already widened Radnor Chester Road, and the left-hand turn lanes are supposed to go in once we have once we do our work. So we told PennDOT that we're willing to proceed, and we were not adversarial in any way, and we were very cooperative. But bottom line is, I'm over $260,000 now and still counting. And I just don't think it's incumbent upon our organization to burden any more expense for this traffic signal, which I am not getting any benefit of, and I've actually cooperated with the township to get this in. So I think that, John, with all due respect, if there are bills that relate to the traffic signal and the professional fees that relate to the traffic signal area, I do not think they're our responsibility. If there are expenses that are incurred for other areas for our property, we'll stand up and take the responsibility for them.
I think anytime you're asking for a meeting with the township staff, or you're sending emails and looking for a response, you're pulling the staff in. So that ought to be reimbursed.
The other thing to keep in mind is there was some zoning. I believe that you had attendance at zoning hearings, and I personally don't know exactly what bills were paid for and not paid for, but I do know that there is some outstanding issues with it. So,
and that's why if we're going to be able to deal with these issues, I'll step up to the plate and deal with things that are related to our property that are unrelated to the traffic signal. But if it's anything to do with the traffic signal, and there were meetings, you're right. There were meetings at PennDOT, there were meetings at our property that involved township representatives, but they were all dealing with the traffic signal. Anything that's unrelated to the traffic signal, we'll take responsibility for. If it's related to the traffic signal, we don't want to have any responsibility for it.
I believe that some of those meetings at PennDOT were requested by you, if I remember correctly. I don't have all the emails up and how things progressed, but it sounds to me like this is something that needs to be worked out with the township. And I would hope that you would cooperate.
With all due respect, we can't link a stormwater waiver to this, because once the stormwater waiver is applied, we're going to start putting shovels to the ground. And we can't put the shovels to the ground and then have the waiver pulled.
So I think I have some questions about, I'm hearing everything you're saying, and I have to admit that, you know, you just have the good or bad fortune of being located where this light is going in. The applicant that was to pay for this, okay, the whole reason this light is going in, it was 200 Radnor Chester Road that we approved, and they agreed to pay all the costs associated, or their piece of.
Right. They did pay only $100,000 on this. Right, they agreed to that.
So, and I'm going to make a point here. I wanted more money at that time. Bob wanted more money at that time. And now we have another property owner that's subsidizing this light. They weren't even at the meeting when we voted on that. So I would suggest that if there's any professional service consultant fees on the township side related to that site and the light design, we should waive those fees. It's not your fault that we made a bad deal. It's not. We appreciate what, I'm just going to say, I appreciate what I'm hearing. I appreciate the fact that you're willing to reorient your driveway and the fact that we're actually taking some of your land to put a light in. I mean, this, you know, it's like eminent domain almost. The point is, Bob, how do you feel about us waiving some of the fees associated with, and I'm not saying waiving any other fees, just the fees associated with the light design, anything to do with the light?
You know, from my opinion, though, if there are meetings you're calling when staff is to be required to go to those, as Amy's pointing out, it's his obligation to pay for those. So I have no problem going back and reviewing these, but if you're calling us to attend PennDOT meetings in regards to this, if you're going through, you know, emails and other staff meetings, that should be the developer's requirement to pay for those. So I have no problem going through those to look at those bills and looking at those expenses, but those should be the applicant here.
Well,
They're
it's
responsible
reasonable
for
that you
those.
work with the applicant to determine what's the appropriate part, but I don't think we should condition this approval on that personally.
It's almost like two different issues.
Well, but still, they're asking for a waiver here that the board is going to grant
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So there are conditions that I think are applicable here.
All right, can I have a motion?
I'll move to conditionally approve a waiver from the stormwater module requirement with respect to this grading plan, subject to exceeding the stormwater by a similar or equal percentage based on a future development and resolution of escrow related to the applicant and the light development.
Do I have a second to that? No second. Can I hear another motion?
Well, we were going to have a motion that basically assured that we're going to waive the stormwater requirements conditionally in that they will return the site to the pre-development state
For future projects.
with any future development.
Do I have
But
a
I think that's a
second?
little bit more, that's what we were, the wording of that, that's the way we wanted it worded.
Do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Commissioner comment? Public comment?
Well, so the issue of escrow or reimbursement of consultant fees is, no, we're not tying to
Yeah.
it, but I'm not.
Okay, all right.
All right, that was issue one for me. Issue two is something Mr. Gross said about future development. And that was, it looks as if he was saying that he is going to raise a building up Radnor Chester Road to the west a little bit. And is that, yeah, thank you. Is that the lovely colonial building that formerly was occupied by the law firm Diamond? And
The Diamond Building is, I believe, the next one.
It is, 252 is the Diamond,
Oh, 252.
that lovely colonial building, you're going to tear that down?
The building is actually falling down right now, and it's totally non-conforming. There's really nothing that could be done with the site because of all the setback requirements. It's non-conforming for any setback requirement, and it's within 18 feet of Radnor Chester Road at this point in time. If there was anything that could be done, we already looked at that and explored it with the community, but there doesn't seem to be any viable opportunity to be able to revisit that building because of all the setback issues.
Setbacks are one thing, but are you saying that even if you had conforming setbacks, you would still tear it down because it's in some sort of a condition?
It's also non-conforming use. This is zone residential, and it's a commercial office building. So not only are the setbacks non-conforming, the use itself is non-conforming. And what we're trying to do is basically give these residents on Radnor Way more of a buffer, as Shelley mentioned, a spruce tree buffer so that they can't see through this at all, no matter what time of year it would be.
It actually is becoming, we're going to create over 2 acres of green space on the areas that are adjacent to our property.
And again, remember, that's a land development application that's going to come before this board.
So the Diamond Law Firm building will be green space?
Sounds like you're eliminating a lot of impervious with this project.
We are. We're taking the impervious down by, I would just give you a rough number, so I'm trying to hit when we have to get the real stuff. But
All right.
it's about 18% reduction overall.
All right, any public comment?
I apologize.
No,
It's about 15%.
We got it, we got it. Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Can I just clarify what this motion is? It was just for the,
Yeah.
and not Rich's, because you
No,
had.
he lost, his motion lost. It wasn't, he never got second.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You voted yes? Okay. That's 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. I appreciate it.
Right, the next item is our library friends. Resolution 2015-76, which would authorize Kimmel Bogret Architecture and Site Incorporated to provide professional design services for the library expansion project.
John Rice, can you give us a synopsis of what this matter is? Mike.
Professional consultants contract between the Township, the library, and Kimball Bogret. Steve has the summary of the costs in the agreement. Basically, it's for the design, the initial design phase of this under Article 3. It's $232,000, which my understanding is that's coming from the library, and $88,250 from a grant, of which the township will be responsible for half of that.
And this is something that we've already committed to, and this is more of a housekeeping, getting the contract signed. And our staff and the library staff has all agreed to the terms of this contract. Okay, thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Move we approve the resolution, 2015-76.
Second.
Commissioner comment, public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 6-0. All right, public safety? Is that you, Elaine?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
All right.
I would like to move to adopt ordinance 2015-07, amending Chapter 270, Section 270-31, regarding special purpose parking zones.
Second.
Commissioner comment, public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Next, I'd like to move to adopt ordinance 2015-08, amending Chapter 270, Section 270-31, again regarding special purpose parking zones, authorizing 2 new handicap parking spaces at North Wayne Lot and Wayne Senior Center.
I'll second that.
Commissioner comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Finally, I'd like to move to adopt ordinance 2015-09, amending the code of the Township of Radnor, Section 270-16, stop intersections for Pine Tree Road and Woods Lane, and Pine Tree Road and Spruce Tree Road.
Have a second?
Second.
Commissioner comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Thank you, Elaine. That was the fastest. Congratulations. Community development. Oh, that's done. Review of proposed park and recreation fee ordinance revision. Tammy, you have that?
Actually, Commissioners, I can take that.
Okay.
At your prior, a few months ago, we talked about the park and recreation fees and the calculation and how it was based off of whether it was the building area or the gross square footage. Ultimately, this board decided it was off of the building area, so we went back and took a look at that language, and John Rice's office prepared this amendment to address the park and rec fee to be based off of the square footage of the building as a whole, not just the footprint.
Well, I'm leaving, but that's going to be an excessive fee.
Well, it's going to be it's changed in 2 ways. Not only is it the whole building, not the footprint, but the ratio has gone up. So that it's not, before it was 4,000 square feet, now it's 6,400 square feet. So it's a smaller, for commercial use. It hasn't changed for residential. For commercial use, the ratio is bigger. And based presumably on the number of people that will be coming into our township in this new commercial development and using our facilities. And I want to note, I looked up the MPC, which authorizes us to do this sort of fee installation. And I am very pleased to see that the new language in the ordinance very, very closely tracks the language or the notion that is authorized in the MPC. So, I think it gives us some sort of...
The state, excuse me, the state actually changed the provisions in the MPC last fall.
Mm-hmm.
And there used to be a restriction on when you collected the money that it had to be used in that area for that project. Now it's a much broader use of it. So if you collect money in Ward 3, you can use it in any other ward, or in this zoning district, it can be moved around. There's also a change in the time period in terms of returning money if it's not used, which is more favorable to the municipality. So you can use it for things you can use it for maintenance of existing parks, for example, Glen McCrone.
But John, your position was that this was for development of homes. The intent of this legislation, if someone looked, it wasn't for commercial properties. It was for the development of homes. So if you make this fee too high and you make it so high that somebody's going to challenge it, your position was that we could lose in court because the whole thing about this legislation was not for commercial properties, but for development of housing projects. That's what it was for.
Primarily, but it doesn't distinguish. It talks about developments, land developments, and subdivisions, and it talks about inhabitants in that code, which to me doesn't mean residents. It means people that are coming and going in an office building and are using the parks. There's been one challenge to this. One municipality tried to assess a park and rec fee against a quarry, and the court really didn't have a lot of problems saying, no, you can't do that. They took the whole and they assessed a fee. It's an unreported case, which is about 6 months old, but it didn't eliminate, the feasibility of assessing this against non-residential. So,
yeah, but the problem is that, now an office building might pay $175,000 or $250,000, but we're talking about $700,000 or $800,000 now. You know, we're talking
That
big
would be a
fees.
very large office building. It's per 60, it's in units of 6,400 square feet.
Right, so
There's,
Well, if you take the biomed site, for example, at 475,000 square feet, how much would they have to pay?
I think we calculated biomed at a 4,000 square foot, so whatever that big number was that the board debated, it would be less than that, because it's now at
2/3 of it.
6,400. It was, I think, 500,000 or 600,000.
right, so it'd probably be like
Under that old number.
200,000 or 300,000.
So the number, Bill, for non-residential is actually,
Yeah.
you know, because you're applying it to the floor area, not the building footprint, the actual number has increased.
Right, the
square footage.
ratio is bigger.
No, but the
So-
other, you know, my problem and Don's problem is probably have the same problem is that, you know, we think developers have all unlimited money and we can just charge them all these fees. You know, we can get $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 million in thing, and then we get another $4, $5, $6, $700,000 in park and rec. I mean, it just gets out of
If
control.
you have an applicant that comes, this is a saldo provision.
Right, you can waive it.
So if they have some hardship issue or some, you know, reason why they can't pay this, they have the right to ask this board to waive it or reduce it.
And let me say, Bill, that I would counter your argument about the how much money it costs us. You know, the township doesn't have unlimited fees, money either. Our taxpayers are not unlimited in what they can fund. And a
475,000 square feet.
office park community comes in here with 400,000 square feet and brings in however many, 2,000 cars, 1,500 cars, and those workers coming to our community every day, they're going out on the trails, they're going out and using our facilities, just the way residents do. And they do, go out to the Memorial Field any day, work day, and who's walking around that trail? Those are workers walking around that trail at lunchtime. And why should that, we have to pay for that. Our costs go up. So the more development we bring in here, the more it costs us. And I feel that the developer who's profiting from this development should be the one paying for that increase in use, not our taxpayers.
If I can, Mr. President, if I can recommend that the board send this to the Planning Commission for them to start to review this. They would make recommendations to come back to this board then for introduction. The commissioners then could make comments, and then it would have to be sent back to the Planning Commission.
All right, I'll move
if we
to
could do
send
that.
ordinance 2015 blank.
Wait, why would
To
it
the
go
Planning
back to them twice? So they would look at it now, then we would introduce something,
And
and
then it
then
has to go back once you introduce.
only if we change it. Okay.
So I'm satisfied
I mean,
with the fees.
I think there's a time element here because we have a lot of development coming down the pipeline. and-
I calculated, just for a point of reference, 145 King Prussia Road, the fee would have been around 200,000.
Which is completely reasonable.
Wait, 200,000, so how did you calculate that?
400,000 square feet.
All right, but so we decided the current one, though, is per building area, not square feet.
I understand that, but the fee.
So what would it be under the current interpretation that Villanova got?
What would Villanova be? Or
No, what would you said
The
200,000 based on?
The fee would have been 200, the fee would be 200,000 for
Yeah,
145.
John, I don't have a problem with a fee of 200,000, but it was like 5, 6, 700,000.
No, that's not what this is.
Yeah.
Because this is per 60, the fee is $3,000 per 6,400
Right.
feet.
And what was it before? It was
4,000.
$4,000. It was per 4,000 feet.
But it was on footprint of building.
On a footprint of building.
Now we're getting the layers.
So there's no ratio. Do we have any ratio to say what kind of an average increase that would be?
It's not, I don't think we should think of this as increase.
All right.
We think this is a park impact fee.
I understand.
And let me just say this, the layers on the cake, the layers of a building, the square footage of the building have a direct impact on our parks because that's the number of people, to Elaine's comment. The number of people in a building or some percentage of those will end up in our parks. So let's do it. I think it's a good plan. It seems to me to be, I mean, we've asked our applicants for hundreds of thousands of dollars, so,
No,
this is not.
John,
but we didn't get it.
I don't have problems with $150,000 or $200,000. But Villanova was $175,000, but if we calculated per square foot, it was $700-some thousand.
Well, that was based on 4,000 square feet, and
This would be less.
this would be a lot less. And it wasn't
Well, but
700, it was
you know-
300 and something.
Let's just
Maybe it was
send
400
this to
something.
planning, and I don't remember.
It was under 400, Bill. the old way. This way, it would have been like 200.
Incremental change.
All right, so do we need to take a vote to send it to Planning Commission?
I would just.
Second.
All right, I move that we send this to Planning Commission for their comments.
Wait, didn't John already?
Comment, public comment?
Just quickly, Luke Clark, 500 Midland Circle. It's a park and rec fee. Could it come to the Parks and Rec Board? Could we have any involvement? I don't want to slow it down.
You get to figure out how to spend it.
What's that?
You get to figure out how to spend it.
I appreciate that. Could we also have some involvement and could we see it? Anything? Just a question. Obviously, it's your call. Thank you.
Why, Elaine, do you feel this has to go to planning? This is just a cut and dried issue. It's to change the ratio and change the concept of
It has to go to the.
building.
Under the MPC, it's got to go to the county, and it's got to go to the Township Planning Commission.
But the
Do we
key
introduce
is
it first? Don't we introduce this and then when it goes?
You'll introduce it when it's ready to be advertised for a hearing, once you get those reviews back.
Oh, we can,
But
okay.
the board authorized the staff to relook
Yeah.
at it. We're bringing it back to you, and you're going to get it back again with the planning commission comments, and then if it's ready to go, you'll introduce it, and it'll be advertised.
Got it. Okay, so it's been seconded.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. All right, Parks and Recreation.
Only thing I want to report is the campouts this coming weekend.
Yes, there's actually 5 events coming up over the next few weeks because we've had some rain delays, of course. Mother Nature hasn't been treating us very well
Go
again
ahead.
this summer.
Tell us.
On Tuesday, we have the Shakespeare in the Park event at the Willows. Unfortunately, tomorrow evening, we are expecting rain, so it's likely that event may get postponed, in which case it would be next Tuesday. So that's Shakespeare in the Park. It's free to everyone in the community. The play that's going to be put on is The Tempest. We're excited about that one. It's always huge, so you want to get there early. Starts at 7:00 p.m. And then Saturday, as John mentioned, is the rain date, of course, the postponed date for the Great American Backyard Campout. That is a pre-registered event, so if folks are interested, they can contact us. Because we're on the postponed date, we did lose some folks from the original date, so you can still sign up. We are taking a wait list. That's the campout at the Willows, of course, overnight on Saturday night. A lot of different activities happening during the day with the event, as well as nighttime hiking stations, and then, of course, breakfast the next morning. Next Wednesday is our annual park concert at Clemacrone. It's Where's Pete, who's a great cover band, plays a lot of different songs, 60s through the 80s. So that's a free concert over at Clemacrone Park next Wednesday, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And then on August 5th, we have our annual park concert at Beau Connor Park, who is Melissa Martin and the Mighty Rhythm Kings, another rock band. That'll be 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And then, of course, the week after that is the Veterans Park concert, Veterans Park over St. David's Community Park, formerly known as. That one's 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., Bach to Rock. It's going to be a variety of teen bands playing. So if you get the opportunity, come out and join us at some of our park concerts. And, of course, the events coming up with the Shakespeare in the Park and the Great American Backyard Campout.
Thank you, Tammy.
Personnel Administration. Finance and Audit. Library.
There'll be a meeting this Thursday, and we, during this meeting, approve the contract for the architect for the library expansion. So that project is getting underway.
Okay. Public Health. Old business. New business.
Business. New business. I'd like to call for the Board of Commissioners to support St. Martin's Church in its hearing on Thursday with the Zoning Hearing Board. St. Martin's Church in the Bolingbrook building is going to be changing their tenant for the same uses that it did have in the past as a non-conforming use for a new school, preschool. It'll just be a new tenant, and after a continuing non-conforming use. And there is some construction in the interior, and we probably shouldn't need to have this hearing with the Zoning Hearing Board, as they do need to start work immediately. So I'd like to get the board. I'd like to ask for the board's support to the extent they can for the Zoning Hearing Board.
Well, John, I was always over the impression that I can't go to the Zoning Hearing Board and take a position in favor of an issue. Is that correct?
You can, as a board, you can send a letter in support of an applicant. Happens all the time. So if it's a motion for the board to do that, there's no prohibition against that. The township's always a party to an application, whether we're there or not.
In this case, it's a continuing non-conforming use with a new tenant. It's a technical requirement to go before a zoning hearing.
Well, this is the first time I've ever heard anything about this. I don't feel comfortable taking a position, so I'm just going to abstain. Because I really don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not, well, if you want to make a motion, I'm not voting for it.
Well, I'll vote for it. I think, Kevin, can you tell us why you took the position that this had to go to
I didn't take the position.
variance?
The code requires that for any change of use for a non-conforming use, it's treated as, a change of tenant for a non-conforming use, that it's treated as a change of use. As such, it requires a special exception. They're the provisions of your code. What we have here is a daycare center that has operated at a St. Martin's Church as a non-conforming use because it's in a residential district. So as a non-conforming use, and they're changing tenants performing the same use, the code requires that they go in front of the zoning hearing board for a special exception. We've had a handful of these over the last couple of years for this exact type of thing. It's just a provision of the code that requires them to appear in front of the zoning hearing board.
Yeah. Well, I don't read the code that much. I guess that's my problem. But I would like us to support the application of St. Martin's Church for this. If that's who the applicant is, or is it the tenant? I don't know who it is. But I vote for
St.
it.
Martin's Church is before. Is bringing that hearing.
Seems like a no-brainer.
I will make a motion to.
Move for just a, do we need a letter? Can't we just say, record in the minutes, the support of the majority?
Yeah, that's fine.
For consideration.
Somehow you want to communicate that. I mean,
Previously, since I attend all zoning hearing board meetings, one other time the board had authorized staff to convey the support of the board. In that instance, I believe it was some steep slope disturbance. So if it is the will of the board, I can convey the board support if that is the motion and approval.
Okay, so let's just vote to direct Kevin.
Right, move to have Kevin convey the support of the board for.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
I'm abstaining.
That's four. You got four.
You don't need four.
Well, this.
Yeah.
4-0.
All right, I was under new business. I was planning on resigning tomorrow, but then you'd have to have a special meeting. So in consideration of this board, I'm not going to resign to the 20th, so you can make the appointment for my replacement on the 17th at your regular meeting. But you should have, I would just announce that I am resigning and that anyone who's interested in finishing most of my term, you have to run in a special election. The board would appoint you, but you would run in a special election in November, and the winner of that would serve the last month and a half of the term. So that I'm going to give Bob a letter, and I'm going to officially resign on Monday so that you don't have to have a special meeting to appoint. You can do it at your August meeting, but you should have a special meeting to interview. Those that are interested should get a letter to Bob, and then the board, under Jim Hagan's leadership, you'll have the reorganization after the new commissioner is appointed. Jim will take over as vice chairman until then, and Jim will be contacting the commissioners, I guess, about dates to set up a special meeting just to interview the candidates.
Let's pick a date now.
I've contacted all the commissioners individually, and everybody is okay with July 27th for the special meeting to interview candidates for the appointment to the third ward commissioner position. So July 27th, I'd like to ask that Jennifer, you, Bob, prepare whatever it is. We have to advertise so we get comply with our statutes, our ordinances.
So just so it's clear to the
I won't
public,
be
if
present, but-
anyone is interested in serving temporarily on this board, you need to send your resume and your desire to our staff before the 27th. Because at the 27th is when we will do the interviews.
And you don't have to send a resume, you can send a letter of interest.
Letter, interest, whatever you want to send.
And
You can tell your resume at the meeting.
And the the meeting is public. It's not an executive session, because under law, we cannot hold something like that in privacy,
Elected officials.
in private, elected officials.
And it probably would be a good idea to have someone other than the two people running for that spot be the ones be considered for the interim spot.
Well, that's a matter of discussion then. Public participation? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Aye? We're
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you all. I appreciate it.